Mafia Manager, a guide to corporate Machiavelli. The series is dedicated to Chris Carter. The truth is out there. Having navigated the intricacies of corporate intrigue and the seeming simplicity of the street, having avoided the Nabokovian pretensions of retired colonels and the naive escapades with pretensions to objectivity of semi-bohemian televangelists, having understood the principles of Darwin and Andropov, having appreciated the power of Sun Tzu's intellect and Machiavelli's thoughtfulness, having distilled the fundamentals of Clausewitz into the near fiction of Gibbon and Burckhardt, we want to help you. Did I almost slip up and make you think? To begin or to think, but to think without giving in to cheap attempts to tame the mind. To help you not by comprehension, but by system. To help you find what you have forgotten. To help you bring back the book. To help you break the template in your choice of entertainment and search for reality. To help you not become a victim of social engineering and manipulation, whether it be a passion for a woman, a tearful airing of a TV program, a commercial, or reality television. The first book we present is merely a farce, a burlesque, a playful compilation to help you regain interest in the book. There is no truth, only opinions. As publishers, we will try to give you the opportunity to evaluate events by presenting different points of view. And the truth is somewhere near. Introduction. You can accomplish more with a kind word and a gun than just a kind word. Al Capone. A man who plays alone never loses. Old Sicilian saying. Breaking through to the top and staying there has at all times been the main goal of those who were not going to limit themselves to earning the minimum to sustain life, regardless of their profession and corporate status. In a passionate, sometimes feverish search for a personal feeding trough and the power and authority that comes with it, ambitious men and women have always sought the knowledge of those who have already tasted success. The Mafia Manager gives you, for the first time, knowledge that reflects a special kind of experience. The fundamental secret of success can be expressed very simply: find a place in the system where you can rule others. And starting without big inheritance and big money, to find this place, you must be more intelligent, ambitious, and energetic than your competitors. Simplified. If you want to achieve big success, you have to be lucky and ruthless. To live with the wolves is to howl with the wolves. Once you've found your place, you must develop the ability to maintain it, defend it from your competitors' attacks, and chew off the next piece. Many will lick their lips because such themes reward their owners with rabid churn. To stay on top, you have to have a clear head and be, again and again and again and again, ruthless. In your world, you will get to know the people you need to know. They will get to know you and trust you, using you just as you will use them. The concepts are simple. You do favors and perform designated duties. You know what must be done and what cannot be done, and you know what share you will get out of it. In return for your attitude and your favors, you will get the opportunity to have the backs of older and more authoritative people. That's how you'll grow up and up. The red thread running through all the stories of great success in the complex world of business, where everyone is at each other's throats, is simple: most of those who have made it to the top are adept at the fine art of managing others. Perhaps some of their managerial talent is innate, perhaps some is acquired through experience, but some has undoubtedly become the quintessence of a hidden wisdom common to many, but not all, of those who have succeeded. The market is full of books examining and analyzing the management skills and techniques of successful corporate functionaries, business magnates, and oligarchs. But all these volumes are just a reiteration of theories developed by learned men and accepted by corporate circles, part of the standard Master of Business Administration curriculum. These adherents of trite science, as all managers who have succeeded are well aware, are absolutely wrong. Their books are artificially long and only add to the delusions of those who read them. None of these texts has ever mentioned the concentrated wisdom of the men who ran the largest, most profitable and surviving cartel in the history of capitalism, organized crime, also known as Mafia, Cosa Nostra, Syndicate, Organization, or by a dozen other names. The Mafia Manager brings together for the first time in the pages of a single book the knowledge and experience of ruthless bosses whose organizational and managerial genius has done more to increase profitability and capitalization than the brute force and violent methods of unsophisticated street thugs or the mediocrity of legitimately elected company presidents. Unlike all other volumes devoted to management principles, the Mafia Manager cuts through the cobwebs of elegant verbiage and extremely boring and often meaningless success stories to succinctly present the pragmatism and essence of the leadership philosophy that founded and guided the silent empire through centuries of expansion and success. The actionable advice and pearls of imperishable wisdom set forth herein are a reflection of a penetrating understanding of the dynamics of the human personality, its nature and character, rather than simplistic expressions of criminal nature. In Mafia Manager, one can hear echoes of Machiavelli, without question the greatest theorist in the field of applied power. It was he who, in his most seminal work ever written on the subject of government and leadership, The Sovereign, advised the Medici. The man who wants to find goodness in everything will be disappointed to live among those who do not recognize goodness. Thus, it is worthwhile to learn how to depart from goodness, and to apply or not apply this knowledge according to the necessity of the situation. We have sought wisdom from Machiavelli's The Sovereign and Discourses in compiling this guide to success. You can find helpful advice by cracking open the Mafia Manager at any time and on any page, or by reading thoughtfully, repeatedly, and consistently until its strategies and axioms become an integral part of your toolkit, both in the corporate journey to the top and in an equally volatile and treacherous world. Today, as in the past, the whole world revolves around greed and fear. As we look back on the last half of the last century and look to the future, people need to know this. As you absorb the lessons of the Mafia Manager, the following revelation will dawn on you. Thinking and acting only for your own good will get you to the top. As Nietzsche observed, it is warmer at the top than the inhabitants of the lowlands think, especially in winter. There is a place at the top, but not everyone can sit on it. Part 1. Managing yourself. How to get in. The best way to get into the family is to be born into it. If your father is a member of the family, he'll sign up for you to get into the cause, and there you are. Although, to get through the corporate pile of bones faster or get an order, you have to have an impressive resume or have been on high-profile cases long before. You have to have a reputation as a concrete guy who can answer for himself on the street and in public. A brother, uncle, cousin, brother-in-law, friend, or acquaintance can be your sponsor if they're family members, but you have to prove yourself before you start climbing. And before you are initiated through ritual into the business/fraternity/family, you are only affiliated with us, connected to us, but not a full member of our cause. As you know, Cosa Nostra is a conglomerate of international crime families with a well-defined hierarchy of members, all working with one goal in mind, profit, and no stranger to choosing the means to secure and maximize their income. The Mafia emerged in Sicily some 500 years ago as a patriotic organization with national interests, but quickly descended into criminality. It took its modern form in the 30s, molded by master criminal executive Johnny Fox Torrio. It was this man who raised Capone in Chicago. What does Mafia stand for? Honor, revenge, and solidarity. You can think of the term as an acronym for Mothers and Fathers Italian Association. Mafia equals Mothers and Fathers Italian Association, if that makes you comfortable. Although it's unlikely. We specialize in defense, dispute resolution, alternative arbitration, and securing obligations, especially for contracts in which the state prefers to intervene. Internationally, we remain strong in Sicily and are expanding our presence to increase Russia's commercial potential. This is our business. Unfortunately, sometimes the law takes our activities into the oncoming lane, declaring them illegal. Your business, the legal world of corporations and business, is not very different from our business, except that you retire from our business only at the cemetery. But you start out exactly the same. As usual, you find a place to start your way up, which is the right job. To find the right job, assess your strengths, your education, your experience, your skills, yourself as a person, your connections. Then put them together in a resume, emphasizing the quantity and quality of your accomplishments, evidenced by awards, certificates, prizes, named scholarships, social life, positions, and more if you're only educated. A little exaggeration never hurts. Identify for yourself, and only for yourself, your potentially weak points. Prepare to turn them into strengths if, God forbid, they are brought up during the interview. For yourself, work to eliminate them. At our business, we often help people fix their flaws by eliminating their career. Find out everything you can about the potential employer you are interested in and use that information in correspondence, phone calls, or interviews when the opportunity presents itself. Style your resume cover letter as you would a meeting summary letter sent after an interview. This means use expensive paper and a good printer. Add a little personal warmth by handwriting a few lines after your signature. If there are known potential rivals who are vying for your chosen position, devise a cunning plan to eliminate their candidacies from consideration with light praise, whether they deserve it or not. If these rivals are competent and worthy of becoming your subordinates, you can always take them under you, rising a few rungs above them in the company pyramid. When you get the job you wanted, don't forget to send thank you cards to those potential employers who took the time to interview you. Good manners are cheap, and who knows what will happen in the future. In our business and your business, the concepts for juniors are the same. Close your mouth, open your eyes, zip your fly, and do as you're told. Naturally, as in any business, the younger ones are obliged to duck. As has been said on another occasion, you must have the morals of a whore and the manners of a dance teacher, but as time passes and you advance, these imperatives will begin to wane, and you will become the guy who kisses ass. That is probably your purpose, as is the purpose of any of us. Think about it, expressed in one way or another. While you're young, learn, observe life. Understand what's what and how real people in the real world act and react. Remember, keep your eyes open and your mouth closed. Shape yourself, acquire connections. Eliminate all possible negative qualities that may hinder you. This will take considerable effort at first, then it will get easier. And the hardest task will be fighting boredom. At the beginning of a career, everyone needs the support of a capo, a mentor, a patron, a rebbe, a holy father. This means that before you start commanding, you must learn to obey. Never leave someone on your team who has not learned to take orders, no matter how competent he is. Never, especially if he's talented. When capo is blowing, you lean into the wind or break. When capo is heated, you stand still and sweat. When capo laughs, you smile, at the very least. The above is just a way of saying that when you are in a submissive position, you are submissive. But don't arouse capo's suspicions with excessive subservience. Excessive deflection can be the kiss of death. That means excessive politeness is the same as absolute rudeness. When meeting with capo, speak only when addressed. To outsiders, speak only in support of his position. In any other case, remain silent. If more information is needed, provide it, but only if you are directly addressed or if it is vital to the organization. In other words, in fondo, you are a vassal of your liege lord or his suzerain as long as you remain at the bottom of the pyramid. There is an Italian saying, tratta con quelli ci sono miglio di te e fagli, which roughly translates to socialize with those who are better than you and pay all the bills. This defines your mentor relationship. Consider that none of the tasks he or she sets you are so bastardized or bloody, metaphorically speaking, that you hesitate doing them. The mentor is important to your future, and you need to show him that you understand and appreciate his efforts. You must respect him and prove it all the time. What should you do if there comes a point in your career where the mentor of your early years in the organization will fatefully stand in the way of your development? Take him down, no question. He has his own destiny, his own career, doesn't he? Mentors have power and authority, something you aspire to. It doesn't matter how they achieved it or whether they are worthy, they have it. They have power, and they will use that power to your advantage if you do their dirty work for them. Al Capone's mentor in Chicago was Johnny Torrio. The doings of these masters in Chicago may be described in the words of their countrymen, Veni, Vidi, Vici. Show him that you're a smart and thoughtful con man, skilled in office politics, but don't ditch him and his people, his partners, or the teams under his auspices. Determine who's who and what's for what, saving that information for future reference. Most importantly, never get meat for your table where you earn your bread. If the man you work for is sane and capable, make him your leader, support him, let him support you, fund you, support himself, lift you up, and repeat to yourself several times, leave his women alone. Wife, mistress, daughters, nieces, nephews, cousins, maids, prostitutes, secretaries, and everyone else. At least you can count yourself lucky if you can marry your capote South daughter or close relative, naturally, getting his permission, several times in case he changes his mind, before handing out such innocent advances as an interested glance or a phone call. But God help you, if there's a mafia princess to marry, all else will be powerless. Make sure you get your boss's orders right before you act on his command. What if you take out the wrong guy, blow up the wrong facility, or bribe the wrong official? Learn the art of asking questions. It's easy for some, hard for others, but always necessary. One more thing, never write anything incriminating: names, addresses, amounts owed, confidential agreements, such documents and their fate. Evidence number 1, admitted in the case of a useless asshole, a type you hardly want to be. And remember, all capo like you started at the bottom of the sea, which rests on the shoulders of giants. And on the bones of giants. When you climb a pyramid, you climb the pile of bones that lie on it and at its base. But he who wants to pick an apple has to climb a tree, doesn't he? Office politics. In our business, politics is realized over a cup of coffee and months, sometimes years, of chatter and gabbing at hunts, weddings, funerals, golf outings, fishing trips, or underground casinos where and when we get to socialize in person, just in person. Then, when the time comes, or the wool stands up on someone's ass, the movement begins. Say, one of the drivers moved into the passenger's seat and took a certain place in the organization, or someone somewhere because of some clever moves retired, or, if fortune smiled on him, retired to his country estate, where there is more grass and light for playing with his grandchildren than in the first case. Or someone suddenly disappears as if into water, or dissolves like a cloud of smoke, along with their car and their compares. In reality, before you can simply become a chauffeur for one of the big guys, thus getting a job and a career opportunity, you have to become a dedicated member of our cause. And to meet the censor and requirements of dedication, you have to make your first bones, which is a wet job, usually accompanied by participation in the labor of scavenging, assaying, or underwater concrete work, that is, the labor of organizing disappearance, percosi dire. You get the hint, don't you? And before you say, "That's not for me," know that that answer is wrong. Before you qualify for a big career move in your business, you have to make your bones one way or the other, just like us sinners. Which brings us again to office politics, the arena in which you have to make your first bones, the only noteworthy action while you move up. You may have passed one of the useful tests printed in glamorous magazines that are supposed to determine your suitability for a management career. True or false answers similar to, I feel ease of thought when making decisions, I am always generating new ideas, I learn from my mistakes, I enjoy meeting people. How do you feel about yourself? Give it up. Your dumb aunt will beat Julius Caesar on these tests, but it's unlikely she'll think to pull a knife in a street brawl, which management is from time to time. One more thing. He who has not been tested by evil will never understand goodwill. To be a manager, in your business or our business, you need only one approach in existence. In every situation you look for the best chance for yourself, and if that requires cutting someone's throat, you do just that. Okay, back to office politics. Office politics is shrouded in dirty secrecy and it never stops. In your business, politics starts at the water fountain, the restrooms, or the after-work watering hole, but is implemented in a much shorter time frame than in ours. Nevertheless, its results can be just as devastating. As for tactics, be guided by one universal principle that you should carry through your life from the moment you realize it on the first floor of your career to passing it on to the lesser ones in the latter stages, and making it work for you, to stay alive, be patient, look around, listen and talk as little as possible. To win, be patient, stay alive, make a plan and strike suddenly. You must correct and suppress any rumors, gossip and innuendo that affects you. Getting involved in office politics to stay alive may seem extreme to you at first. There's always a comrade nearby ready to take you on and set you up, always, and, regardless of your desire, you need to know about him or her to protect yourself. Having learned of him through the office telegraph, be careful to prepare and deal with him in the same way he prepares for you, and before he is ready to advance. But at the same time, Be a friend to any man, woman, or messenger boy in any office faction that exists, without joining openly with any of them. Cordially socialize with everyone, but don't get close to anyone. You don't need to stand out significantly from the outfits of your coworkers, don't make shocking escapades, or even casually talk about the wild party life you lead when you're on vacation. In other words, blend in but don't stand out. You'll want to sit out most of the petty and pointless battles. So what if they decided to shorten the secretary's lunch break and they rebelled against this violent interference in the inalienable rights of man and citizen? What's it to you? You too may consider it one of life's minor injustices, but at the entry level of your career, keep in mind that the company doesn't care as deeply about you either. Like any secretary, you're an easily replaceable part of a big machine. By signing up to their demands, you'll undercut a promising career your own. Remember, not every spark ignites into a flame. Perhaps at this level of your development you have not been adequately shown how oppressive, short-sighted, deceitful, petty, contemptuous, hopelessly stupid, and absolutely incurably stupid most of your company's top managers are. Believe it, we put up with it all the time. Top management. Upper management. The higher the baboon climbs, the more visible his bald ass is. Generally, the older and bigger the company, the more unfair it is from your perspective. From the perspective of corporate management and our perspective, we're a big corporation too. What do business and fairness have in common? Although, through the efforts of our dons, our cause looks like a congregation of Mother Teresa followers. One example, we always tell the guys about the risks in our business, death or jail, business trip. Big companies, our proud as peacocks megacorporations, tell you nothing but lies. The truth gets to the bottom level only by chance. The most you can do, if this is about you, is to tolerate a pharisaical and dying environment and wait for your chance. Be patient, hang on to survive, entrench yourself and lie low. The fall of the aged emperors is just around the corner, and 1,000 opportunities will come your way during the collapse of the empire and beyond. Remember, a hunter's best weapon is his patience. Listen, learn, and as you retrace your steps, salute by accepting those, awfully small, raises, compared to what the top manager is doling out. Do it with a smile, or if you want to be a chocolate asshole, keep a work journal, as many How to Succeed manuals recommend, and use it to justify asking for a pay raise. You get it? Well, it's the kind of journal where you enter your completed projects, what you accomplished with them, how much you saved, or what you accomplished for the company. By having a work log, you might get a token bigger raise, but you'll never get a specifically killer position, or they'll tie a tin can on your tail because of it. What is a magazine but bending over for your senior? What? You think I don't know what you've been doing for the last 6 months? At most, send your boss a memorandum when the project is finished, and only to indicate your participation on paper and compliment her reading ability. Naturally, in our business, nothing more legible than Papagallo poop gets on paper. Meanwhile, office politics is at work again. You do your job with your mouth shut, with the discipline of a true soldier, strengthening your alliances wherever and whenever you can, gathering commitments and collecting promissory notes, practicing chewing off bits and pieces and doing the work you chewed off on your own and with your own people, the work that was originally given to you or came to you after being swamped by others, and taking on projects that have in some mysterious and strange way fallen into your hands. The more allies you have, the more sources of information that is vital to you. And remember, it always pays off, paid for in different currency, to get or acquire information from enemies, from neutrals, even from your bosses. You can steal what you can't buy, don't get caught, and what you can neither buy nor steal can be knocked out, of course, metaphorically speaking. Of course. The reason you portray the all-like one as boys, or girls, is to ensure a calm and powerful flow of information flowing in from all directions. The office telegraph is the most reliable source of information available to you, if you can filter out the powwow, at least 10 times more reliable than all the intra-office memos or bombastic speeches from management. In any case, top management, for reasons unknown to mankind, always hides what it knows, even when it has to lie to do so, and is most often unaware of the actions of middle management, but secretaries know everything. Senior management in companies are usually isolated from employees and don't bother to listen to them. Don't listen and you won't hear. This is an ingrained habit of senior management. They don't even listen to themselves. In the way of your rise, you'll be offered a dead project, a fornication, a wasted project. It happens to everyone. If there is even a faint hope of dumping that project on someone else, Jim has always been interested in this topic. He told me he's even enrolling in a correspondence program in the spring to study it in detail. Do it without hesitation. That is, if you can't see the end of the road yourself, send someone else. But if it's impossible to excuse yourself, do your best. You'll raise your credibility a bit, they'll recognize your sense of duty, a small promissory note from those greats who threw that shit in your hem. Sometimes it's better to lose than to gain, especially if you have no choice. In the meantime, you have to make sure your team's product is recognizable within the company. Your capo talks to your seniors about your abilities. You send short and succinct memos to lower and middle management, written to the point but actually being your PR campaign. You're friends with most people of varying status. You're not part of any faction but admired by all, and the moment happiness was so close, you'll immediately see your enemies. Say you've just returned from a 3-month business trip to the Upper Mukasran, branch to cut the budget of a marketing department filled with overpaid old goats. A popcorn smash would be beautiful, but in Upper Mukasran, all people only retire. A simple layoff would cause a slew of lawsuits and legal complications, so you've been sent there to ensure they leave voluntarily. You implement this by overburdening the subjects with impossible work, refusing to provide the help and information they need, greeting their falsely hilarious jokes about being overworked with an invariably stretched face, constantly changing instructions and reducing schedules. They will flee like rats from a sinking ship. You suspend the few stubborn ones on probation. One had 38 years of service. And knowing that one can hear the sound of a waterfall without even lifting in or from the water, you can be sure they will find work elsewhere. Working at VM, you didn't make friends, but you got a sense of accomplishment. You did the impossible and successfully completed the task. Such tasks are like a business trip to the zone on the boss's assignment. It's hard, but in the end you move up in the system. In our business, the boss helps you sit down, of course, with your full support, but takes care of your family while you are getting food from Uncle Sam's bounty and covers you and your business. Naturally, if you have spirit, you are bold, don't rat, don't snitch, don't snitch, don't snitch. Spirit and boldness are essential qualities highly valued by men of honor. You come back to discover from your sources and from numerous informants that, by becoming a rising star, you have caused bitterness, usually not personal, to all logically possible rivals in your department. Such things aren't always said directly, but when an informant misrepresents the facts, you'll be able to identify the lie by its substance and the way it's presented, and thus filter out the useful information. You've anticipated this possibility and are ready for it. Beware, your opponent may be a dwarf with crazy eyes, gray skin, mustache, big mouth, egotistical cretino, but you should never show him that you think he is like that. Instead, please his ego and act like you want to be his friend. Start your counter-maneuvers before your opponent thinks about moving. Feed the deuce into the office telegraph a mano, grain by grain. Look, does Jay look awfully tired lately? Probably took too big a chunk of work and choked on it. I don't know how true that is, but I heard that XYZ Incorporated offered Jay a swell job. It's going to be hard for us to replace him. And to your mutual boss, Jay's people screwed him over on the last project. But you have to admire his loyalty to them. And finally, the ultimate coup de grace set up via one of Jay's trusted ferrets, the rat who lied to you. Everything is annoying. Don't tell anyone, but I'm working at XYZ Incorporated starting next month. Meanwhile, Jay feeds this news, as an established fact, to your department head. A day later, you're invited to a showdown at headquarters, and you proudly display your letter to XYZ Incorporated, firmly refusing their offer. It doesn't matter if the boys were boys, the important thing is to have a copy of your rejection letter. A few days later, the department head's secretary will tell you that Jay has been called on the carpet and given an exemplary spanking for his lack of team spirit. This prodigal egomaniacal cretino has been informed that he is the type of individual your company does not want in its ranks. Can you imagine one employee setting up another employee? What a lowlife. In our business, we usually don't bother with suggestion if the person is worth anything. If not, we put a stop to the project. You listen, lie quieter than water and lower than grass, fetch, do favors and collect promissory notes, which will always come in handy, chew off new pieces and make your bones. Everything flows, everything changes. Il buen tiempo verá, good times will come. But in the meantime, trust no one and be careful about everything. Business. Mafia business is business. We don't like hurting people, ripping off and unscrewing balls, breaking off thumbs, smashing kneecaps, handing out kicks in the ass. What the hell? Most of the time, to befriend the right people, we give a lot of money. What could be more American than that? We just want to honor our own interests. Why the trouble if the person understands ACE and cooperates with us? But if you screw us, no lawsuits in court, police reports, Senate or congressional hearings. You've heard of the MeWe toys? The government is such a toy. We own it and we control it. What we don't own and control is not worth the time spent. At one time one of us said it well, we're bigger than US Steel. And I guarantee you, hobo, we are much bigger today than we were then. How did we get there? The old-fashioned way. Face it, people work with and for people using the same old values. Thank goodness people are people. Human nature is predictable. People respond to incentives and rewards. They still believe in the old values. Of these, the core ones are greed and fear. Here are the basic principles of business. Do business with strangers as if they were your brothers, and with brothers as if they were strangers. The most important thing in your business relationships is a reputation based on honesty. You will, without question, succeed by portraying honesty easily, gracefully, naturally, sincerely, and naturally. We own what we have been able to chew off and keep. A question of price is more expensive than a commodity, a purchase is more expensive than a freebie. A handful of opportunity is more expensive than a dump truck of fairness. Here is the golden rule of business. He who has the most power and makes the rules has the gold. If the pot is boiling, take a long spoon. If the house is on fire, keep warm. Stay out of other people's business, but pay attention to success. If your neighbor gets up early, get up even earlier. Never give advice to partners unless it benefits your business. And never act on one piece of advice. Get second and third opinions. Beware, your trusted partners and associates may want your piercing. Sadly, the government always notices excessive success. And without success, you're at the bottom. Many a screwed-up joint in our business has started on the success line and been buried under it. The tendency of our business, like any transparent enterprise, is to merge and absorb successful businesses. And it's often only accomplished through a long and hard-fought battle. Have you heard of hostile takeovers? We're the ones who invented them. In the free enterprise system, the big thieves always rat out the little ones. Unfortunately, sometimes hostile and friendly takeovers end up bankrupting the company being taken over. And some of the management ends up as casualties of the financial wars. And despite everything, our principles are honor, revenge, and solidarity. We know that there is no justice unless we provide it for ourselves. We earn respect. We earn credibility. Keep these truths in mind as you climb the ladder to success. There will always be a fat target painted on your back. Also, he who seeks shall find. But sometimes it would be better not to seek, wouldn't it? Problems. It may take a long time, but with patience and persistence, even the most serious and dangerous problems can disappear on their own. This means that given time, the problem will resolve itself. But often, especially with big problems, self-resolution is so uncertain and so far in the future that you will find it necessary to step in and control what happens. When solving big problems, expect the worst possible outcome. If you can afford losses, move forward, trying to maneuver past that worst-case outcome. Never make plans counting on the best possible outcome, but if it comes, play it by looking around and calculating everything. What the hell? If God throws you a plum, open your mouth. Naturally, extreme problems require extreme solutions. Since time immemorial, all global problems come, as it happened to our founding fathers, from people. There are, in fondo, two types of people, those who take bribes and those who give them. Be the one who gives them, lots of them and in different coin. You already know you can buy masses of people, allies, soldiers and lieutenants. At least up to a certain point. Enemies get free. A lot of events in this world are beyond our control, but you can usually manipulate and influence people. However, this doesn't always work, and when things don't stick together, there is a colossal problem. Sometimes that problem can ruin a family or an organization. Remember what happened to the temple when Samson held up his roof. So the prudent manager always concentrates on making his people happy with bribes that will ensure team cohesion, make them loyal, make them deaf, dumb, and blind, to put it allegorically. Sometimes human problems need to be dealt with roughly and harshly. The lesson will be taken not only by the misguided and deluded, but by the rest of the team. When dealing with someone, ensure that the rest of the team understands the point of your lesson. Punish 1, teach 100. It is natural to mislead others, unnatural to mislead yourself. When devising manipulations and scams, be sure you don't fall victim to them. Don't lie to yourself. No one will eat for breakfast what you eat for dinner. As one of us said, shit don't smell like. When you're faced with finding a solution to a particularly difficult problem, pore over the past. Torrio, Capone, Luciano, Costello, Genovese, Accardo, and many others of us, and many of the freelancers we tolerated, were organizational and managerial geniuses. Rationalize their methods. Adapt them to fit the demands of your circumstances. Just don't repeat their mistakes. Where is the key to their managerial wisdom and organizational talent? Only in one thing and one thing again, their own people feared them as much as their opponents. All management manuals say in solemn tones that respect is the key to managing people, and thus to solving problems. In some part this is true. Fear is the highest form of respect. Shortly before he went to prison for income tax fraud, Al Capone explained to a reporter how he made the Chicago branch run efficiently. People who respect no one are in awe of someone who inspires terror in them. So I built my organization on the foundation of their fear. But please understand me correctly. Those who work with me fear nothing. Those who work for me are loyal to me not because they get good money, but because they know what will happen to them if they lose my trust. Develop a system for responding to human problems with a spectrum of ready-made solutions, ranging from soft talk to hard hitting, from income cuts and grievous bodily harm to the absolute measure of eliminating the problem by eliminating its source. The use of punishment as a solution to a problem must be executed with limitations. You can avoid unnecessary work by putting the problem solving in the hands of competitors or police officers, federal, local, sheriffs, or the board of directors. All the classic mistakes made by the syndicate's founding fathers were caused by a single human flaw: hubris. People break their legs over bumps, not mountains. Time management. Don't work a lot, but work smart and thoughtfully. Get others to do as much for you as they can. Hanging out, fornicating, and coddling apply to work too, at least most of it. But guys, let's be direct. Have you ever listened to those tapes they roll in federal court? Who can understand what we're mumbling to each other? Develop a code that the federal government won't understand, and talk all you want. Make sure you understand each other beforehand, though. In our business, we strike from time to time, but they are not strikes against a chess clock. Our work often requires long waits between tasks that make our brains melt and boredom overwhelm us. Make that time work for you. Read something other than a sweepstakes newsletter. Listen to self-education or self-education tapes or audiobooks on CD. In short, do something other than sit your ass on the dot, play cards, gab about chicks, idle chatter about divorces and schemes. All of these things are present in life, and courtesy demands that you spend time with coworkers and associates, but not indefinitely and not aimlessly. Wasting time is the same as not having any. Because our jobs attract ambitious and lazy people, a young person who wants to break through to the top will find something productive to do with his free time, and it will mark him, fill his pockets, add to his power, and bring fame and prestige to his elders. Find a similar theme for yourself. Pick a time of day or night when you can be most productive and do business during those hours. We only meet with partners, receive visitors, and give audiences when we are at our best. We hammer arrows, threaten, kick butt, slap heads and smile at friends or enemies. Underline is appropriate, only when it's time. Do the same thing. Not a minute sooner, not a minute later. If you're forced to do something at an inconvenient time, speak shorter than brief and show up only to show up and reschedule. Remember, effective time management is not about creating a rigid schedule. Neither work schedules, meetings, nor strategic plans can be rigid. After all, no one knows what will happen tomorrow, who will break their neck, who will be run over by a car, or who will fall on a brick. On top of that, anyone can get frustrated by the daily grind. The best thing you can invest in your business is your time. Create a meeting schedule, make a plan and use your time effectively. Know your topic and your goals. Assess obstacles and opportunities, then strategize. Here are some of the basic time-saving strategies we use. We always park in the second row, locking everyone else out. We don't kill 2 hours beating a measly $200 out of a client. We have attorneys who make more than that without breaking a sweat. We never do ourselves what we can divvy up, pay for, or order someone else to do for respect. Some of us set our clocks back 10 minutes. Why show up at a meeting, event, or shoot and wait for others to arrive? Let them wait for us. Unless they are our bosses. In that case, we are punctual, no question about it. We change where we go regularly: the club, the gym, favorite spots, pubs, mistresses, anywhere. Then everything is always fresh on us and we don't have to spend time shopping, stealing, or going home to get clean clothes. In our business, especially if you're their junior, you can be called upon at any time, 24 hours a day. At any hour of the day or night, you're off at the ringing of the phone. Even if people have a day off and we're on vacation, business takes priority over everything else. All the left behind things take a back seat, even wives and mistresses. There's a lot of different time, including time off. On a business trip, you live one day at a time. You compile your own time. When doing for the boss, do it quickly. When patronizing a subordinate, help but without much haste. But doing anything for the police or for the government should be done only when there is no way to avoid it. And anything you do that is not for the boss, your guys, your family, your friends, your business partners, the cops, the government, you do when you have the desire and the time. The principles, strategy, and tactics of effective time management are outlined above, and here are the basic screws and nuts of the mechanism. But don't forget the basics. Effective time management means making the most of every minute you've spent working, making sure that every day has hours, every week has days, and every year has weeks when you don't have to work. The latter is the holy grail of effective time management for all but workaholic jerks. We say, work smart, not long. 3 basic rules for effective time management. Schedule your tasks. Delegate them to others. Pass on to others what's left over. Lecturers at management seminars paint creating the perfect workspace as an essential attribute of effective time management, creating quiet time, reducing distractions and irritants, increasing determination, concentrating effort, and so on. These strategies complicate things to the point of adding another hour to the day. The problem is that you could kill more than a year to prepare and implement such a system. Like basic management systems, time management can be reduced to common sense. If you know how to allocate your time, you need a maximum of 6 hours a day, and not every day. The ideal workspace is wherever you're comfortable. It can be a table in a cafe, the kitchen table in your home, an empty office in your office, where you are not interrupted or distracted, where you are comfortable and relaxed. Pick a time of day or night when you're at your best, as we said above, grab a cup of coffee or tea and let your mind drift. Surprise, surprise, your mind will start working and generating solutions to problems. You've found and created the perfect workspace and quiet time. Take a yellow notepad and with a vertical line divide the page into 2 parts. Put the date in the upper right corner. In the left column, write down what needs to be done, in abbreviations only you can understand, prioritizing tasks according to their value and urgency, balancing these criteria one against the other while you prioritize and reprioritize these tasks. You've prioritized the tasks. Then, in the right vertical column, to the extent possible, distribute those tasks among others. You've delegated. After that, analyze and reanalyze the columns, changing priorities where reasonable or necessary, delegating some more tasks. Continue as long as your mind suggests changes or additions. In order of their apparent importance, you've allocated some of the tasks to yourself, most to others. Tomorrow you'll check what's already accomplished and start a new day with a 2-column sheet, having destroyed the old one, modifying, distributing, redistributing. That's what effective time management is all about. It is also the art of delegation. Make a similar page for the week's tasks and another for long-term strategic projects. Strength and power start today. It's too late to look for salt when the food has already been eaten. But remember, as we've said before, planning cannot be a rigid, one-time action, much less strategic planning. Both are processes subject to constant adjustment based on life's unforeseen circumstances. Be flexible. This is something that the old Mustache Peters, the first mafioso in the United States, knew very well up to a point, and then, overly satisfied with the new state of affairs, forgot. The old Mustache Peters are long dead and gone to history. That's the point of the lesson. To allocate time and make plans, you have to know your goals, know them qualitatively and quantitatively. Let's say you set a grand strategic goal for yourself to retire at 40 with $1 million. You must then assess obstacles and opportunities, strategize and tactic, always visualizing your resources and foreseeable risks. Then you plan how to realize that goal. Who does what, in what sequence, where, with whom, with what, and how. This gives you your operational plan. That is, a group of tasks that must be accomplished within a certain time frame. And then, necessarily, you delegate. Let's say you work for an organization that requires you to show up and be in the office from 9 to 5. The art of time management in this situation would be knowing how to keep your office door closed, allowing only those you want to see in and when you want to see them. Your secretary is your gatekeeper, your security guard, and your guardian angel. If any of your people manage to break through her cordons and poke their heads in without permission, asking busy, you respond with a threatening yes. When you're meeting with your employee in your office and they have too many ideas, or they start rambling, or both, and you've already gotten the information you need, put a stack of papers in front of you, lean over them, and say, "Thank you, that's enough. I have work that I need to finish right away. The meeting is over." If you don't like answering the phone yourself, some managers like to get up-to-date information right from the phone booth. Give your secretary a list of those you can be connected to immediately, make the list short, and ask her to take messages from the rest. At about the same time each day, answer important calls or those you deem necessary. Whoever needs to call back will call back again. If you call back and the flow of words on the other end of the line is endless, no end in sight to the discussion, hang up and dial the next number. Very few people will believe you hung up on them. To save their pride, they'll blame AT&T. If you've recently tried this tactic on a given caller, try silence. Don't respond. Don't react. Nothing. Pretty soon, your interlocutor will nervously end their one-sided dialogue. And if your interlocutor is important to you but you're tired, tell him or her that you have an important meeting starting. Your closed door shouldn't and can't block your access to the workstations, halls, and corridors of your office when you feel like it and feel comfortable spreading cheerfulness and fear among your people and seeing for yourself who is doing what with whom, how and what the fuck is really going on there. Decision making. Before making any important decision, gather as much of the best information that is available, even if you have to beat it out of someone, and evaluate it carefully. Discuss it with other devotees, analyze it, draw a worst-case scenario, add the positive and negative factors, discuss it with your consigliere and do what your spirit prompts. A spirit person, percosi dire, a person with a sense of place and a sense of timing will rise to the top in any business. But when your spirit fails you on a specifically important event, it means the end or jail. Note that this is an endlessly recurring theme in our business. And all decisions must be calculated with the stabilizing factor of the end or kicha integrated into the checks and balances. It is probably correct to assume that the consequences of mistakes in your business are less dramatic and less lethal. As for less important situations, define the problem, gather the facts, find solutions, and try to weigh the consequences, keeping in mind that every maybe is usually outweighed by a maybe not. Consult other people, talk to your consigliere. Then unload those problems from your head for a while. Your subconscious mind will keep working on solving them, and quite often the right move will come to you on its own, without you consciously working on it. While this sounds as naive as going to an astrologer, trust me, it works, and it works most of the time. It's intuition, what a person with spirit relies on to make most of their decisions. To pump up a situation, when making a decision, concentrate the most verified information in your head. Check with others. Reflect on it. Then decide based on what your inner spirit tells you. When making a decision, small or large, find, evaluate, and consider the following. 1. The specific nature of the problem. 2. The facts that seem to be the real facts. 3. Alternatives, their possible negative or positive consequences. Then ask others for their opinions, let your subconscious mind run wild, and make a decision. Only look back by evaluating the results and drawing conclusions for the future. And always save your lottery tickets. Last, if after all, after making a decision, you still find yourself screwed, do what everyone in your or our business does. Pin the joint on someone else and quickly deal with the consequences by correcting mistakes or punishing. Friends will never equal family. There is no need to confuse the loyalty of friendship with blood ties. Friends can be acquired with different currency. Family is eternal, big or small, hungry or fed up, fino alla fascia to the bitter end, except for exceptions. True, there is a genetic problem. Every family has its share of idiots, cretins, half-wits, morons, retards, defectives, bureaucrats, alcoholics, drug addicts, and traitors. They usually reveal themselves immediately, so take the necessary precautions. You need to pity and comfort these lost souls, not loudly scold in public, especially since this criticism leads to nothing. The main problem in communicating with friends is their sincerity. Betraying you from time to time as soon as you make a mistake, they say right to your face, nothing personal, just business. They always maintain a consistently supreme loyalty to money and power, justifying themselves with the same phrase, nothing personal, just business. You will only know your true friends when you try them out. Until then, don't be sure of them. As long as everything is fine, you won't be able to test them. That's true, and it's something you have to come to terms with, and if there's no chance to test them, never trust anyone completely. A true mafioso has no friends, only interests. Can friendship and loyalty be bought? 500 years ago, Machiavelli said the following about friends and their role for a leader. It may be said of men that they are in general ungrateful, fickle, hypocritical, cowardly, desirous of avoiding danger, and eager for gain. So long as you benefit them, they are entirely yours. Friendship is acquired through buying and selling, acquired without guarantees, and in a moment not ready to serve you. Some advise, don't do business with friends and their children. Some advise, don't borrow money from friends or lend them money. We are in favor of the opposite, though with special precautions. How can small friendships stand in the way of big business? If you have to deal harshly with a friend, you know their weaknesses and habits, which makes it possible to act more thoughtfully against them. Nothing personal, just business. Never tell your friends about your business successes. They won't believe you or will judge you for bravado. Don't talk about your business problems. They will gloat and pass it on to your enemies who may take your failure as a signal to attack. And don't be too quick to believe what your friends say about your enemies. By the time you get to the top, you'll have all the friends you need. Friends who came along after you became a top manager are on double suspicion. All you need is as many allies as possible. You don't have to sympathize with them. History is full of relevant examples. Enemies. As you bring your friends closer, bring your enemies even closer. The most dangerous enemy is the madman, Pazzo. It is impossible to reason with him. He is not afraid of death. He does not care about the fate of those around him. He must be destroyed quickly and carefully. The same basic principle applies to the rest of the enemies. They must be destroyed or they will take revenge. What happens to enemies who are not destroyed? They prosper. Look at Japan and Germany. Fear your enemies. Lack of fear leads to disasters. Look for your enemies in unusual places. Under the bed, on the bed, in yourself. One virtue of an apparent enemy is that you know who he is. A man without enemies is a man without virtues. Only mediocrities and worthless people have no enemies. Isn't that true? Even Christ had many, many enemies. Always think of the worst your enemies are capable of. You will be less likely to make mistakes. But remember, revenge is a dish best eaten cold. Axioms. The world belongs to the patient. Some are careful not to lose. By playing cautiously, you will unequivocally lose. Think a lot, say little, write even less. You can't win fair, win dirty. Or get others to fight your battles for you. Learn to say, I don't know. If you want to take out your anger on someone, make sure you don't become your own victim. You can hide the fire, you can't hide the smoke. Young people think old people are fools. Old people know they were. The best way to win a debate is first by overriding logic with threats and finally by beating, making an agreement, delegating, the bastard. If your budget allows, you can also buy your opponent's arguments. But be careful in such cases, you're setting a precedent. It's much better when your enemies think you're insane rather than rational and sober. You can't fill the sack with one grain, but you can start. Blowing on a fire puts sparks in your eyes. Hunger makes bread a cake, beans a steak. Opportunity makes a thief. A thief who has no opportunity to steal thinks he is honest. Nothing is easier than a promise. The servant of two masters lies to one of them. It has also been known for two masters to starve a pig. If you must hit, hit roughly and hard so that you don't fear retaliation. Even a mouse has 3 burrows. If for 1 minute you let your enemies or friends think they are on equal footing with you, they will immediately think they are your boss. Don't try to avoid your enemies, just control them. Know where they are, what they think, and who they believe. Promise little, deliver much. When you're angry, close your mouth and open your eyes. But better yet, don't get irritated. Determine who you want to be, then do whatever it takes to get there. You don't have to establish what you need to be for others. They will discover that for themselves in due time. Try to do 2 things at once that are usually never combined. Think that sometimes good things can happen without effort on your part. Never underestimate the following 3 things. 1. The enemy's abilities. 2. The enemy's cunning. 3. The enemy's greed. Never overestimate them. He who is responsible for others pays their bills. Silence is the only way to keep a secret. Always cross the street in the company of a beautiful woman. Understand this as, when doing anything, do it with style, nobility, and elegance. Multiply the negatives of any of your projects by 2. Divide the positives in half. It's better to tear your shoe than to puncture your foot. Those who snore pretend to be asleep. Be flexible. Once you stop being flexible, you're dead. Be flexible. This is a rule forged out of metal and totally inflexible. The most flexible element gradually becomes the controlling element in the system. If you lie, be brief. There are no coincidences. Open your mouth and your wallet with caution. Learn the conventional wisdom, then avoid it. Only on exceptionally rare occasions should you attempt an encore repeat success. A crow cawing at a seagull usually sinks. You can't forget what you don't know. And used weapons don't shed blood. Nothing comes from nothing. Betrayal is the best weapon against treachery. Some defeats are better than victories. Unfortunately, some victories are worse than defeats. Listen to advice that gives you an advantage. Don't give that advice to anyone. No credit to a man is worth as much as his cash. It is very common to lose bait when fishing. It is an unavoidable and necessary expense. Don't shake a green apple tree. When the apple is ripe, it will fall by itself. Always pull a snake out of its burrow with someone else's hands. Not only don't murder, don't become murdered. The only way to fight bulls is to crush them until they are forced to retreat. Do not try the depths of the river with 2 feet. Those who cannot act as they should must act as they can. Accept what cannot be cured. See if you can act as you should, or don't make it your goal. God will provide, but give yourself up to that point. There are so few virgins on our sinful earth who are not tired of being unclaimed. Haste is the mother of bad luck. A man who wants to hang himself is easily led to the noose. Necessity breaks all laws. The street-smart lieutenant does some of the dirty work himself, making sure his soldiers know about it. If you're forced to bow, bow very, very low. And keep that bitter memory alive until you can get your revenge. To hammer a nail in the dark, you have to hit it 1,000 times. Don't touch the problem until the problem touches you. Get busy doing what you know best. Frequently transplanted trees rarely bear fruit. Don't ruin other people's scams. You'll find yourself in the same situation someday. Daring in business is the first quality. And 2. And 3. Prioritize. If you're up to your ass in crocodiles, the first task is to drain the swamp. The world lives by the principle of quid pro quo. It's not enough to have 1,000 friends. It's enough to have one enemy. There are no harmless enemies. Let your enemy help you. The only way for your enemy to help you is to let his better instincts betray himself. Don't get in the way of that. If necessary, make your plans complicated and give only simple orders. If you can't win, inflate the cost of defeating your enemy to the point of unprofitability. Be correct with everyone, sociable with many, close to a select few, a friend to a few. A fool is he who cannot hide his wisdom. A sucker will always laugh at your jokes. The best armor is to be out of harm's way. Don't throw a boomerang at your enemies unless you are prepared to catch it. After victory, don't hide your weapon too quickly. And hold tightly the hand you can't cut off. After strength, cunning. After cunning, victory. When the game is made, make sure you have the bank. Your enemy is not as powerful as you think. Neither are you. A vulture's best friend is a dead horse. In other words, even a bastard has his uses. Part 2. Managing others. Hiring. Because you manage people, sooner or later you'll have to hire them. This process can be an eye-opener as you discover, once those you've selected start working, that most are probably less competent than you expected and absolutely less competent than their resumes say they are, or that they've convinced you they are. Naturally, self-description is not a recommendation. A monkey in a tuxedo is still a monkey. Nevertheless, people, with all their flaws, are the stuff you have to work with, and your success as a manager will depend on them. Having a large family with many soldiers and enforcers is not a necessity. In fact, the fewer people, the less betrayals and disappointments. More employees, more betrayals and frustrations, on top of more overhead. Keep in mind that for center positions, you should find people of the highest possible quality. In this case, one advanced person is worth 1,000 jerks. For really responsible work, closely related to involving others in the topic and organizing them for results, this applies to almost any profession, even those involving highly technical skills. Don't hire yesterday's students, no matter how impressive their resumes may be. Look for someone who has already demonstrated the ability to work with others. When choosing people for positions that are less critical to your team's success, you may favor attitude over experience. Attitude shows up in a variety of ways. For example, a salary question at the beginning of an interview clearly shows a negative attitude. Moreover, the person asking it is just plain stupid. For really vital positions, never choose a recognized expert, no matter how impressive his list of accomplishments looks. Experts care only about their image and only about their fees. That's where their interests end. Never hire more than one family member, perhaps with the exception of your own. Forget about spouses or lovers working together, regardless of the importance of their personal qualities and skills to the organization. Before hiring a person, schedule an interview. Knowing the abilities, qualities, and skills you require, give applicants time to think about answers to your questions that will bring out those qualities. Be specific. General questions provoke general, and therefore unhelpful, answers. Demand specific answers. Your why and how should follow their answers. As for the interview strategy itself, if possible, sit the candidate next to you rather than across from you so you can observe their autonomic reactions, body movements, averted eyes, swallowing, and other such things. Take the resume and scan it with your eyes, occasionally frowning in response to an obvious divorce. Once you've finished the acting class and brought the applicant to a pre-infarction state, ask him why he wants the position and what gives him reason to think he's qualified for it. Let him sell himself as much as he wants, interrupting occasionally with specific questions, why and how. Last, if the candidate is currently employed, ask why he wants to change jobs. Repeat the last sentence of his last answer, as if puzzled by his possible misconception, and then lay out the requirements of the vacant position, emphasizing the difficulties and complications attendant upon it. If he frowns, winks, or rubs his cheek with an obvious expression of displeasure when you describe the difficulties of the job, consider how to blow him off. In polite language, describe your feelings to him. If he doesn't try to remedy the situation, "I've always been attracted to difficult tasks, that's what I'm after," send him on a sexy hike. Tell him that there are several other candidates for the job and that you'll inform him of your positive or negative response in a day or two. If you're convinced that you've had enough contact with him for the rest of your life, when you say goodbye, absent-mindedly mutter that he's too professional for the job and wish him luck. The unambiguous candidates for a sex walk are the ones who are questioning the future of their careers beneath you. That's just some of the crap they're filled with, and don't even think about them. In any case, stop the interview as soon as you've found what you were looking for and learned what you wanted, no matter how much time has passed, 5 minutes or 50. When it seems like a candidate is worth another look, check references and work history. Forget about personal references. Only an idiot would write about something that unflatteringly introduces him or her. If you get someone recommended, call to get input from your own. Schedule a second interview for the person you're considering, preferably during lunch, and at that meeting, lay out what doesn't add up in his or her business references and employment history or looks like a blatant scam. If those doubts, real or contrived, are resolved to your satisfaction, sell him the job. Sell the job. Don't make promises of future pay raises, career advancement, or empowerment. The candidate gets what he gets, and no one, not even you, has a magic crystal ball. Give him the job he signed up for. The future will show what comes next. Following the job offer, come up with a few hypothetical problems he might face and ask him what he might do to solve them. If it passes the test, make a final offer and take it. If not, go back to the office and schedule a meeting with the next one. Most people are more relaxed during the second interview, and you'll be able to uncover more of their true qualities, especially by having lunch together. Table behavior and dialogue provide a wealth of information about a person. Wine tells all. You're looking for quality, but sometimes, quite by accident, you'll get suckers and bureaucrats. Fortunately, there are jerks in whom these qualities are recognized at a glance. But even in those cases, after assessing the nature of the vacancy, you'll want to take a closer look at some of them, just as you'll think about promoting your soldier bureaucrats to lieutenant. There are places in every organization that can be filled with this category of people without much damage from the joints they periodically steamroll. Look at the United States Postal Service. Half of its employees are jerks and bureaucrats, a pretty normal ratio for any large organization, who sullenly go pear-shaped 99% of the time, and yet the mail gets through. But the reason mail is slow is not at all because of the jerks and bureaucracies that have crowded into this organization focused on the public service the nation needs. The reason is the management, which is 100% clowns who are clearly overpaid. When one of your bureaucrats is clearly screwing up, go private with him and chew him alive. He will then do his best to live up to your expectations, often choosing or hiring a capable soldier to do all the work for him. In normal day-to-day situations, a bureaucrat does as much harm as a blind horse in an empty barn. Why, however, hire, promote and nurture with money a buffon, a clown? There is a reason for everything. Such a person can become one of your most loyal associates. Loyal out of gratitude that you give him a job and income, and then leave him at the trough, even when it becomes obvious that he is not able to handle his duties with brilliance. Loyal out of fear that you can throw him out at any moment for incompetence. He needs your support to breathe, to stand on his own 2 feet. He only exists because of your tolerance. Trust me, that loyalty will make him your best informant, your purveyor of office gossip and office politics news, and that's where his talent and his abilities will truly unfold, paying the biggest dividends. People like this play well in your masses when you're hanging out, and thank goodness they can be easily traded off without compromising the organization should the situation call for sacrifice. Nothing extra. Without question, and at your sole risk, as the Germans say, auf jeden Gefahr, you should never hire the opposite sex with the hope of future erotic reward, except in image or ponce situations. But who among us stopped in time for ponces? Soldiers and lieutenants. In business as in life, there is always room for betrayal. Therefore, considering all other personal qualities equal, loyalty will be the defining virtue to be discovered and nurtured in soldiers and lieutenants. The only person you can fully trust always, and under all circumstances, is you yourself, so you can trust yourself to trust others from time to time if you want to. Behind loyalty come personal abilities, qualities, and competence. Promote only capable people, and sometimes the occasional bureaucrat. You find capable people by testing them. They have to make their bones and get more challenging tasks from you. Having discovered competence in a select few, give them jobs of increasing difficulty, but only those they can handle successfully. Label their success with praise, like fostering confidence in a child. Promote them to more difficult tasks, from which greater bonuses are derived, and set even more difficult ones. Don't criticize more than necessary, and rarely in public. Always preface criticism with a few words of praise. Most of your soldiers will have only a faint idea of their own worth or their own mediocrity. You, mainly through your street lieutenants, must give them the idea that they are worth anything. You have to make the tasks you give them matter to them. They should want to get work from you and be proud of themselves when that work is done. They should, and this is the basic rule, come to realize the meaning of their lives through the work they do for you. Thus, you should praise when you need praise, sometimes even when you don't, and they will work for your success. In public, put your lieutenants on display. This will lead them to think they are in authority. Let your lieutenants know that they did everything themselves, but don't let them forget that the task was given to them by you. Give specific instructions to your lieutenants, clearly defining their share in the success. But never reveal to them the whole scheme. If none of your soldiers and lieutenants know everything, they will depend on you. Make your soldiers and lieutenants your children. Women and men. Men are superior to women intellectually. Men are more emotionally stable. Men value success more than women. Men are more positively aggressive than women, or at least more positive. Of these 4 declarative stereotypes, none of them are absolute truth or revelation, but unequivocally part of them, as indeed are statements that deny these axioms. Most women, however, have one or more of the 11 characteristics of their sex. You should keep these in mind when hiring women or having them on your staff. The 11 cornerstones of female character are: 1. Women don't know how to say please. 2. They don't know how to say thank you. 3. They piously and naively believe that all troubles happen to them through no fault of their own, but that all happy accidents happen because of their exceptionalism. 4. They have selective hearing and tunnel vision, that is, they hear only what they want to hear and see what they want to see. 5. They know that their views on life are the only correct, unquestionable. 6. If you disagree with them, they automatically recognize themselves as the aggrieved party. 7. In any discussion where they disagree with your opinion, they will a priori distort your point of view, twist, cover up, fudge, and substitute facts, and, as a standard tried and true means of accomplishing their goals, lie. Worst of all, they believe their own lies. 8. When and if they tell you trust me or no problem, never believe it and the problems are legion. 9. The main and often the only topic of their dialogues, their main interest in life is themselves. 10. These creatures are blinded, spiritualized, and live, inspired by dusting, ponce, tinsel, and intrigue, and, if they are not yet 40, do not know anything about what happened in the world before the day before yesterday. They live on the pages of glamorous magazines. 11. They're flighty, volatile, devious, lazy, and fickle, which stands for the inability to act positively, rationally, logically, and consistently, and do endlessly stupid things at the strangest and, more often than not, most inopportune times. They're not bitches, it's just the way they are. These traits define the nature of most women, and it's in the absence of these basic qualities that you should look for exceptions to the rule. Hire and promote only these exceptions. But remember, if you find men on your team with at least 3 of these traits, remove them first, hard, brutally, and without regard. Take my advice with due respect. But remember that as a manager who lifts people up and rolls them down to sinful ground, you must always think about the balance between independence and positive aggressiveness versus the complaining humility and submissive loyalty of a sycophant, the balance between self-confidence and self-esteem, the balance between emotional control and sound judgment. Before you cross women out of your cause, thank goodness they don't exist in our cause, think of Queen Elizabeth I, Catherine the Great, and the dragon ladies who commanded pirate fleets in China. Whenever you are forced to hire a woman or promote a woman upward, think of them and look for their modern counterparts. Moreover, because female stereotypes still exist and bright as individuals, women are more likely to choose aggressive role models than men. They can be more productive and capable employees. These women can be more ambitious and yet more loyal than men. It is a well-known fact that almost all female managers have a male bias against their own gender. Any woman who is successful wants to believe that she is the exception that only confirms the rule. Such women are less conniving in the internal intrigues of the team than a man, but remember that Sicilian conniving and the conniving of the weaker sex are completely polar things. Sicilians are conniving for the sake of the cause, women are conniving on their own, because of their nature. Sometimes, though, guile hides simple stupidity. All other things being equal, prefer women to men for lower-level or entry-level jobs. Not only will they work harder and be more responsible, you can win on their pay. The stakes in the game are high. Women are happy with 25 or 50% less than men. Consigliere. Good advice makes you think. So when choosing a consigliere or senior advisor, choose someone with a lot of experience, broad views, and a practical orientation. And, of course, someone you trust. Traditionally, the consigliere is the voice of reason, an advisor and someone to learn from. Venire piu midi consigili means to become more sane. Consigliere helps you to do this. He is at a distance from your immediate, small and intimate problems and reflections, from your emotional involvement in those problems, simply because the ultimate responsibility will not fall to him. He does not have absolute power and authority to do that, it is to yours. Being at a distance, your consigliere will help you identify the nature of the big problems, analyze them, and resolve them. One of the consigliere's less important roles may be to mediate minor disputes within the organization. The consigliere will also save you from false assumptions and heartache because he is, in a sense, a disinterested person. Completely interested, but at the same time disinterested, again and again and again, because the ultimate responsibility does not lie with him. You can get bad advice from good friends and very bad advice from best friends. In contrast, the advice you receive from your consigliere will usually be good. Always give him your absolute attention. The best consigliere will make you think and answer questions. Usually his advice will be different from conventional wisdom. With his vast experience, broad views, and practical orientation, he knows that what everyone else accepts as truth and veracity may not be. Secretary. By the most modest standards, your secretary should be your bodyguard, gatekeeper, diplomat, general, and totally dependent on your generosity and goodwill for her financial and psychological well-being. You should trust your secretary more than your wife. She will know everything you know about your business, except for those of your long-range plans, in the fullness of their details, that you would rather not let her in on, and she will know many aspects of your business better and in greater detail than you do. Plus, she's much closer to the sources of reliable office gossip and the machinations of office politics and will be a trusted and accurate source of information for you. Never, ever, under any circumstances ask her to make coffee. Send for it so she can have a cup with you when it arrives. She is essential to the success of all your business plans and can destroy you faster than your competitors or federal laws if she gets the urge. Make her happy. Her hostility is not something you want to ever get. Having everything, give her a handsome title, responsibility, and authority equal to it, along with a good salary. Naturally, all romantic entanglements with her are strictly taboo. Human Resources Director. The Mafia doesn't have one, so why do you need one? By the time your organization gets so big that some in it start thinking about the need for a HR director, your department heads will have lost touch with their employees, and that's a dangerous situation. Managers have to recruit and hire their own people. If someone starts getting into the mechanics of finding staff, make sure they're only doing the mechanics. Never let them write job ads or handle the initial screening. Never let them interview candidates. Managers should recruit and hire their own people. When you yourself hire someone to work directly for you, 20-somethings who are starting at the bottom, you can designate that their first tasks will be hackwork, pure hustle and bustle, to which university wisdom is inapplicable. Advise them to perform these first tasks willingly and brilliantly, deeply drowning their feelings of overprofessionalism. Tell them to sit out their brilliant ideas for operational and business improvements that will immediately come to mind because these ideas have already been tried and shelved. Point out that secretaries and other technical people in your organization can be the most important allies they can get. Advise them to try to fit in with the team, at least temporarily, even if they think that most colleagues live boring, monotonous, and gray office and personal lives compared to their own. In other words, ask them to turn down the volume. Such advice is unnecessary if you're not talking to a university graduate but someone who wants to enter our business. We get these lessons on the street. All graduates are deprived of this advantage. They've been told they know the world, and they believe it. Only one person in your organization should be absolutely sincere, absolutely frank, absolutely open, absolutely broad-minded, and absolutely incorruptible. The person in charge of keeping your company's and your own accounts. Pay him well, reward him often, praise him if there's nothing more to offer. If there's enough work for 2 or more, find an assistant who loves his work. If you don't have enough work for 2, get auditors to review the company's accounts. Titles. Job titles are extremely important. That's why banks and advertising agencies have so many vice presidents. Important clients want to work with someone in authority. Ditto for all the important insiders in your company. Sometimes you can negotiate with an ambitious employee for a smaller raise if the promotion comes with a cool and quirky title. Use this as a negotiating point. The world lives on ponce. Let's help it. Titles can be used as euphemisms for the inevitable Haldane, menial, or unpleasant work that must be done after all. A sanitation worker becomes a sanitation engineer. This mitigates the pain, sweat, and dirt that accompany such occupations. Watchmen say that the working title boss of all bosses, capo di tutti capi, was gotten rid of because it caused jealousy and rancor among the heads of the families. All bosses wanted to be equal. No one wanted to be lesser, hence the creation of a national commission on the principle of one man, one head. The world lives on ponies. Raises. Create an annual appraisal policy whereby performance is evaluated against the rate multiplied by the percentage of the maximum raise. If the employee is deserving, raise him or her after the performance review. Naturally, you should reward persistent, diligent, dedicated employees, so in special cases you may raise outstanding ones above the maximum, but that's at your discretion. But make sure the employee is aware of your generosity when you exceed the salary limits dictated by management, creditors, shareholders, the commission, or other dark forces that you say really control your business. Remember, some people will never be satisfied no matter how much money they get. When they complain to you that they are underpaid, tell them that working part-time in addition to their primary job for you will help them make ends meet. Tell them that you welcome this hack job as long as it doesn't make the main job less productive. Realistically, our organization usually does not prohibit its employees from doing small business on the side to increase their income, predetermining that outside topics are glued together with prior management approval. Loyalty. All people try to work in their own self-interest, and most of them believe they know what those interests are, often mistakenly, but always without question. Your job is to get them to see their own self-interest in your self-interest. You do this by punishing them for mistakes, rewarding them for success. You cultivate loyalty by showing people that their profit is where yours is. The merging of interests is mutual as they work toward the task you set. But you have to be fair in evaluating their accomplishments. Perhaps circumstances were beyond their control, or you misjudged the situation when they failed the task you set. Your scales should always tip in the employee's favor until you clearly decide to fire them for incompetence, so proceed slowly. Last but most important point, anyone in your organization is always right versus an outsider. Even if your soldier is wrong, he is right. The situation can be settled between the two of you later. And you, as the boss, are always right for everyone in your organization, both when confronting an outsider and when your decisions are questioned by an obnoxious child or an old geezer in your own organization. obnoxious children often become old geezers. Topologies. If human nature doesn't mislead you from time to time, you just don't get it. It's not to say that human individuals can't be categorized as certain elementary types, unless you think a lot about shades, blends, and simplifications. You have to avoid only one category of people, no matter what subcategory they might fall into: eloquent sluggers, orators whose speech resembles tap dancing. You're not interested in the nuanced rhetoric of your captains, lieutenants, and soldiers. You are only interested in the results. They speak for themselves. There are many other variations of basic types that you won't be interested in unless they have special skills for special assignments after which these people can be discarded. The snob, the scumbag, the gossip, the bullshitter. The idea is that you shouldn't give jobs to people who are hard to socialize with or whose hair you don't like. Tie a tin can on their tail. That's one of the prerogatives of being a manager. Remember, 1. No one hires anyone except to make money from what that person can do. No one. And 2. There are always at least a dozen people who can do the same thing, all things being equal. You have a choice. There's no need to get involved with a know-it-all who takes you in an unnecessary direction. The same market rule applies to matters of the heart and personal life. You have people with temper tantrums, bad moods, draggers, those who talk but don't do. Get rid of them, and immediately. It will probably be good for them, unequivocally better for you. After that, look around to identify 4 types of soldiers in any organization. These are: 1. Dumb and lazy, no ambition. 2. Intelligent and lazy. 3. Dumb and with ambition. 4. Intelligent and with ambition. The first type, dumb and lazy, usually doesn't know whether he should shave his ass and scratch his chin or vice versa. It includes workaholics, bureaucrats, chatterboxes, and from time to time you'll get the feeling that 3/4 of your soldiers shave their asses, although their proportion in any organization rarely exceeds half, being usually 25 to 30%. Given simple and explicit instructions, bureaucrats will be able to cope with the daily routine tasks quite well, satisfied with token pay raises, half a living wage or a little less, and will be among your most loyal employees. Fortunately, they have their uses, as every organization is forced to hire people like them for want of the best. You have to recruit the second type, the thick and lazy. These people won't spend a penny to watch an ant fold a haystack, but they will find a needle in that haystack if they need to. So, they need to be kicked all the time and they will solve problems. All you have to do is keep an eye on your lieutenants to keep moving them in a timely manner. They, the thick and the lazy, will do the bulk of the turnover at the top level of your organization. Many managers find the thick and lazy difficult and try not to hire them or work with them. This is a mistake. The only thing necessary is regular motivation with the long stick. Strangely, or perhaps not so strangely, Chancellor is usually of this type. He doesn't have the inner spark to turn his brains into personal power, but he has the brains to succeed as an advisor. You can recognize the third type, the dumb and ambitious, through their constant flattery. The dumb and ambitious believe in the superior flavor of strawberries with Dungeness, although most of us prefer them with cream and sugar. More specifically, this type can be useful, as such people will do anything to suck up to you. They make the best errand boys, adjutants, Chaldeans, and errand boys. The moment where their usefulness ends begins is where their selfishness leads them to claim expertise and get tasks incompatible with their inability. Working hard and being dumb to the core breeds ambition. They are so unreliable that they will not only be unable to work for strong, capable lieutenants, but also to subjugate others due to poorly concealed excessive ego. They want to control, to rule, but for this they have no tools, simply put, brains. Moreover, because of their desire to flatter, they have no true loyalty. This should not come as a surprise, because most people with ambition have no loyalty. They want to take the place of the boss. You know this for yourself and about yourself. Unfortunately, the dumb and ambitious have no sense of place and time to make the right move without interfering with the flow of the organization's operations. Consequently, the first problem this type creates brings him or her out into the open. Beware, this type of soldier, dumb and with ambition, it should be noted, just like the dumb and lazy soldiers, because of inner stupidity can awaken cunning. Such Germans call them Dummschlau, Dummschlau. Such soldiers are very dangerous for the organization and they should be killed at the first opportunity. Sooner or later they will betray you. If you're lucky, Dummschlau, who lacks cunning and forethought, will make small mistakes. Then remember the principle of lie in one, lie in everything, and apply appropriate measures. The fourth and final type is pushy and with ambition. This type should be given more and more difficult tasks, rewarding and elevating him when he succeeds. People of this type can be adamant or quiet, sensitive or indifferent, gloomy or friendly, in general, anything, but they are the ones who will succeed in what crystallizes the success of your organization. Of course, most people are a mix of these types, and you will rarely see a pure representative of one of them. Ideally, you'd rather have in your midst those who are deeply committed to you, those who are honest and direct, brave, spirited and creative, talented, energetic and calm, those who have a reputation for reaching their goals and taking the high road, those who keep their egos in check while working in the shadows, those who seem to have no jealousy, those who seem to put the goals of the organization above their own, as you are instructed to do. Those who do not lust for power, but wield it wisely when empowered to do so. Such Boy Scouts do not exist in nature, but you must find their likeness. Those you raise and promote must be close to the ideal. By promoting people to the top, you learn everything about them, because power eats a person like a cancer cell. It increases the sense of self-importance and infects other qualities with the substance of similarity, pure, undiluted and genuine egoism. Exceptional are those with whom this does not happen. The right one is yourself. Grazie a Dio. That's you. Leadership. An old Sicilian proverb says that the pleasure of leading is sweeter than intercourse. Maybe that's true. At any rate, people have tried out different ways to lead by showing, allowing participation, fraternizing, coaching, or simply giving orders. The last method is by far the most reliable and effective. When manipulating and leading people, the measure of your success is not in building relationships of trust and reliability, but in achieving your goals. The measure of your men's success is only whether they can get the job done. Don't relax your guys, much less relax yourself. Before you set a task, gather all the facts about the situation and those who will be handling it. Give advice and direction in unambiguously understood words, setting achievable goals. The fewer orders, the better. When speaking, understand what you want to accomplish. Answer questions until it is very clear what needs to be done, but never apologize to your people. Don't familiarize yourself with your subordinates. While inspiring admiration, familiarity breeds suspicion. Never make an alliance against bosses with their subordinate. The day will come when subordinates will be approached, and then, knowing the secret of collusion and fearing they will be exposed, they will decide to defend themselves and turn you in first. Even soldiers at the very bottom of your family have power over someone. To maximize their productivity, show your respect for them, but remember, they are not dons. Regardless of the qualities of your men, you must keep telling them that they are the best and can be. Point out their worth when the goal is achieved, don't praise them too often. When going to punish publicly, criticize them as a group, don't single out personalities. These are the people who will fight for you. So butter them up. Every single day. Keep in mind, however, that if you're too kind, sooner or later the soldiers will revolt. Treat them harshly and they will willingly follow your orders. Very often women, as subordinates, like to be treated harsher than male soldiers. Most men perceive kindness as weakness. Because of this, they like to receive orders in a direct, harsh manner. They respect strength. This is doubly true for women because their fathers were brute power to them. Most little girls love and respect their fathers, even as they become grown women. But take advantage of it. Be willing to be betrayed by any of your men, but especially the one you trust the most. Pay for any betrayal as quickly and publicly as possible. You will die as a leader if you let a traitor go unpunished even once. One last thing, if you learn that one of your soldiers or lieutenants has domestic problems, marital infidelity, a wife has been diagnosed with dipsomania, kleptomania, nymphomania, any other mania, or similar problems have arisen in the children, keep a close eye on them. The apple often doesn't fall far from the tree. In fact, Most managers from God, who have succeeded for a long time, speak quietly, calmly, and measuredly. Quiet speech makes others listen. It's a quality you can and should develop. But remember, the more you talk, the less they listen to you. From time to time, you should be abrupt and even rude to your staff. When speaking to me, you need to shut up. Don't worry that they will say bad things about you. It's already being said. But mostly, try to be polite and understanding. Please the majority, suppress the minority. Butter it up. Butter it up. Try to be as honest as possible. Tell the truth about your plans to the extent necessary to accomplish the tasks at hand, or say nothing at all. Make them think you are a man of your word. Harry Khan, the universally hated czar of the movie industry, was admired for his ability to keep his word. Promising to destroy you, he always carried out the threat. Be consistent, with the rare exception where inconsistency is necessary to shake up the staff and destroy their complacency and self-satisfaction. When you're at the top, everything you do will be seen by your staff as an act of genius. At least that's what they'll say. And most won't be sly or try to glorify. For them, donkey nonsense from your mouth will be the truth in the last instance, simply because you are the boss. So don't believe the flattery of your subordinates. Your consigliere will be a great corrective force for such occasions. In meetings, assign someone to voice your new goals. Look at the reactions of your staff. Note who supports you, who opposes you, who allies with whom. Determine whose opinions are already formed and whose are not yet. If you want to walk on water, know where there are reefs underneath. Factions, cliques, alliances will soon emerge among your staff. In a power struggle, it's very important who and what gets snatched away: a big budget, a promotion or pay raise, approval of their ideas. Your job is to see that this fiddling doesn't get in the way of the organization's goals. Information is vital to a leader, and office gossip reflecting corporate intrigue is far more informative than formal reports. However, there are a lot of things that you don't want to show off, so minimize the number of reports that come across your desk. It is much easier to feign formal ignorance and not engage in faction warfare unless you have to take sides. Eventually, the problem will resolve itself. In a sense, patience settles conflicts. The best way out is to take as few problems of this nature into your head as possible. You won't necessarily need teamwork from your employees anyway. You'll want your soldiers to fight for your gaze and your favor. That doesn't mean you have to pit them against each other. If they know they'll get your look and your favor by achieving productivity, you'll get productivity and results from office rivalries. If you have a group within your organization that consistently achieves high results, accomplishing all tasks, for God's sake, don't break it up. The magic of the combinatorics of tricky moves will fly away in an instant. When you ride a fast, fresh horse, you don't have to jump off her and lead her in stride. Ride it while it's alive. On the other hand, move your subordinates from task to task, from group to group. If you don't do this, people will stop thinking, stop acting, absorbing your budget with little rebound. Give troublemakers impossible tasks. Let them prove themselves or destroy themselves. If you're tightening the screws on one of your teams, be direct and calm with other teams until it's their turn. If the situation allows, don't order anyone to do anything. Give the task to the person who is volunteering to do it. In most cases, this is the best way to solve problems, and you'll be able to discover promising soldiers you might have overlooked. When you need to assign a task to someone, assign it only to them. You don't need to pit two people against each other in solving the same problem, as most consulting firms advise. The theory of consultants is that pitting people against each other will get the task done and determine who is better. Although Napoleon observed that one bad general is far better than two good ones. So delegate to one. Explain to him the objectives of the work and give him the authority and means to accomplish them. Allow him to choose the means and methods without deviations in deadlines and goals. There are always reasons. Judge by results. Resolving conflicts in the team. You hire a person with the right abilities. About a month later, an employee with the seniority they need to work with comes in with a complaint about them. Determine for yourself their value to the firm. If it is inadequate, ask the person who made the complaint to put up with it. If time shows that the two can't work together, get rid of the less valuable one. If their value is equal, Tell the one who is complaining the story of the man who brought a monkey into the house to save himself the dirty work. The man's wife started screaming that he had lost his mind. Why do we need a monkey in the house? Where will it sleep? With us. With us? And the stench? She'll get used to it. There is no need for further discussion, but if the complainer doesn't smile with at least a tinge of bitterness, get rid of him or the problems will continue. Dismissal. In the good old days, everything was resolved with one phrase: "We no longer need your services." You didn't have to explain your motives. Today, things are more complicated. Employees are suing for wrongful and unfair dismissal. The courts apply the concept of right to work, which means that it is impossible to be fired without the employee's wrongdoing. If you decide to get rid of someone, start documenting their incompetence in writing. When and if a lawsuit is filed, you can justify the dismissal in court. In preparing the termination, send out a memorandum of the employee's inability to do the job assigned and make sure all the right people, including yourself, get a copy. By the book, you can't fire someone for incompetence without first giving them notice. So it would be smart to preface your firing with a probationary period and a warning of incompetence, after which no one can say there was no warning. At the end of the probationary period, 2 weeks, a month, 90 days, you open the doors wide and say, in an affectionate whisper, "Goodbye." A much easier and much more effective way would be to get rid of the employee by the method of aggression and humiliation. Sharp and prolonged criticism in public, so that colleagues can hear, combined with humiliating orders and tasks, should quickly lead the proud person to voluntary dismissal. If none of the above approaches are effective, you can invite your target to your office for a private conversation on one pretext or another. What you talk about will, of course, be personal. But if the person you want to get rid of goes back to his desk, rubs his knees, self-consciously and fearfully, and writes a letter of resignation, you've probably made your point and marked yourself out. With that, he got off easy. If he had been associated with our cause and his departure became an issue, he would have been removed without question. Stealing. Some of your people are going to steal from you. Such is human nature, remember that. There are individuals who think that looting paper clips, pens, pencils, stamps, and other accessories from the office increases job satisfaction, boosts productivity, and stimulates the firm's economy. So don't be disheartened to discover a few small kleptomaniacs in your organization. But once discovered, keep an eye on them. Sometimes a small thief, emboldened by success, tries to become a big one. When and if a big thief is caught, he must be destroyed publicly. Nothing is a better means of preventing crime than the implantation of the knowledge that swift and severe punishment will be inevitable for all apostates. Tightening belts. If your organization needs to tighten its belt, you and your subordinates are relaxed. And if you're forced to cut costs, start with yourself. Your employees will find it easier to make certain sacrifices if they know the boss is in the same position. Cut their pay, perks, bonuses, and ensure that news from the accounting department leaks out so the whole team accidentally learns about it. Start cutting costs by personally inspecting and analyzing the entire organization. Then ruthlessly attack wastefulness and begin downsizing. Combine some positions, eliminate others. Keep strict records and control costs, down to paper and paper clips. Make a step-by-step program for becoming a leaner, meaner, more mobile and aggressive team, and execute it with the fanaticism of a true adept. Put this program, removing what you deem necessary, in an easily accessible part of the office so that everyone can familiarize themselves with it and become infected with belt-tightening enthusiasm. Lastly, make sure everyone understands their role in the program down to the last line. If you don't look after it, no one will. Productivity. Increasing productivity doesn't necessarily mean developing the ability to work quickly or having to spend more time in the office. According to statistics, 50% of work time is used inefficiently. In other words, your guys are drawing devils, fiddling, pear-shucking, and napping 30 minutes out of every hour. Your firm's productivity can be increased by implementing employee time scheduling controls with a full understanding of employee performance goals, reporting on results, combined with the deployment of a widespread butt-kicking or nudging campaign. Emphasis needed. Remember, no machine is 100% efficient. Don't expect the same from a human being either. When your people are working too hard, they're either trying to impress you or they're incapable of handling their tasks during work hours. Determine what's going on. In all likelihood, you'll see that your middle managers are trying to maximize their revenue by overworking their staff. This can backfire and cause the engine to explode with everyone suffering, including you. Don't encourage overtime. Tell your people that the best way to impress you is to show results at the right time and go home to relax. Notions. Your organization needs written rules and guidelines for making expenses. Beyond that, the fewer rules the better. Every rule is just a debatable boundary that all adventurers are willing to break. Those who break the rules may turn out to be your best people. Axioms. Better a donkey that gets lucky than a horse that gets thrown out of the saddle. You can't judge a book by its cover, except when the cover is all there is to it. In the fertile land of promise, you can starve to death. A fish is killed by an open mouth. The most dangerous people in this world are rich reformers and beggarly idealists. But of the two evils, it is much easier to deal with greed and ambition. In each soldier's closet hangs a silk capo suit. A big drum sounds nice only from afar. You can't sharpen a bad blade well. Put up with fools from time to time, you may learn something worthwhile. But never argue with them. Women resist to give themselves beautifully, so do most men. Don't judge people by what is said about them. A minute of patience is 10 years of comfort. With all due respect to recreation, even a good drink destroys a drunkard. An eagle does not hunt flies. Rolling on thin ice, roll fast. Leaving the bow, the arrow does not return. As long as you don't ask for help, everyone is well-mannered. Well-served is the one who pays well. A woman can only keep a secret that is unknown to her. All life is a blind success, even if you think you can change that. Stolen money is twice as sweet as earned money. Preparation is the mother of haste. Lust for love and lust for money are at the root of all vices. Be sure you control the system, not the system control you. No one loves chastity like he loves a woman. Enjoy the form and observe the rituals, but only as long as they lead you to your goal. Money is good even in a dirty sack. If you haven't found your victim in the first half hour of the game, you've become one yourself. It's easier to understand 10 countries than a few people. A man in love loses his pride and with it his mind. Knowing this helps in dealing with enemies and subordinates. A runaway nun always blasphemes her convent. Do not expect justice, do it. Little people don't like to be looked down upon. Unfortunately, neither does everyone else. A silent fool will pass for a wise man. A rich thief will pass for a gentleman. There's no point in going to bed early if you can't get a good night's sleep. A handful of success is better than a dump truck of wisdom. If you seek, you shall find. But not in time. In a storm, pray to God, but row to shore. As wolves grow old, they lose their teeth, but not their character. Out of 15 flatterers, 14 lie. New facts are new acts. If a problem has no solution, look for a woman or man. Elevate the realities of a difficult situation. Forget the realities of a good one. Women, wind, and luck inevitably change. There is always enough in life, enough to own, enough to be rewarded, enough to steal. If you go first, any medicine for tough situations has a side effect. Choose the one with the least. Trust the man, not his O's. Curiosity has ruined more virgins than love. Many want to fish, but only a few bring the bait. You only get to know a soldier when he becomes a lieutenant. No one decision will satisfy everyone at once. When you have to cut, convince the victim you're a surgeon. Lots of words, lots of lies. No acceptable apology for defeat. Capo tells part of his plan to one, part to another, but no one in its entirety. Apply democratic centralism only in private. It is not enough to manipulate people or events. One must take into account the time factor. Good medicine is always bitter. Don't think about tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll inherit $1 million or you'll get run over by a truck. Or you'll inherit $1 million and get run over by a truck. Sentimentality is for suckers. Giving people enough time won't accomplish anything. There are 2,598,960 combinations in poker, and you only have one in your hand. The beauty of it is you don't have to have the best hand to win. Part 3. Goals. If you don't know the direction of travel, you won't get anywhere at all. Only a few can succeed in this way. Leaving the future to chance sets you adrift toward disaster. Without direction, the organization is thrown into chaos, anarchy, and heading for bankruptcy. Dictatorship is the only absolutely effective way to run an organization. Outside, in fondo, in our world there are no codes or parliamentary committees. This means that the dictatorship of one is necessary to make your organization successful. Voluntarism, cliques, factions, different people, and a sense of happy interaction between subordinates are not capable of doing the job. Committees and working groups are not capable. Your original goal was to start leading, to rise to the top, to absolute control. That is, your goal was power. That is the goal of the organization you run, total control, total domination. To achieve this goal, you must choose your own means, evaluate problems and their solutions, risks and opportunities, and having evaluated, develop a strategy for solving problems, minimizing risks, taking advantage of opportunities. You must develop plans for your subordinates, set them clear tasks, defining time frames, who does what and when, where and in what sequence. The development schedule, however, should not be rigid. It will change depending on your organization's resources, depending on your success or failure. It will change at different stages of the fight due to the diminishing strength of your opponents. You will never be disappointed if you don't expect favors from your adversaries. Business is a war. Your plan is to eliminate others in order for them to eliminate you. Put it into action. Winning is not the best choice. It is the only choice. If it weren't, no one would keep score in sports. To win a war, you must attack. You have to define the organization's goals, establish a team or chain of communication, depending on whether you like the military or business term, create work rules, establish a system of control, delegation, productivity evaluation, hone everything to jewel-like precision, modify, if necessary, and act again. In short, you have to manage. The true nature of business. The essence of our business is to make money. To make it in any way possible without asking why or why not questions. The same applies to you, as legally as possible. As Al Capone said back in the distant 26th, like any businessman, I am only meeting demand with supply. In the world of legitimate business, it's not illegal to screw over consumers as long as you don't get caught doing it. Just like ripping off customers, lying, robbing banks and stores, working off suckers, ditching widows and their children, real estate fraud, playing with duped stocks, charging interest, putting on the meter, as well as something new and original invented by you. As long as you don't get caught. That's how we feel in our business. We coincide with legitimate business in all important respects. That means, without really focusing on it, that we are an organization of thieves. As in the legitimate world, our primary goal is to eliminate competition, to destroy it. If this is not possible, we, like the top managers of the legal world, temporarily negotiate with our rivals and divide the market into several separate territorial monopolies. The capitalist system aims to satisfy demand with supply in a freely competitive market. Thus, if you want to drive up the price of your product, try to destroy competition. The subjects of the financial industrial empires built over a century ago by Morgan were closely knit, efficient organizations under central control, developing common interests among competitors and forming syndicates that controlled price and output. Similarly, the subjects of the Mafia empire that Johnny Torrio created in the 30s in the United States were formed in the same way, and which are still thriving today. Crime syndicates and cartel capitalism, including the transnational corporations of the mega-capitalist times, are one and the same. You must remember all of the above about our cause and the true nature of business, because it will help you put aside the dull-witted holy writings about the business world that will distract you from the straight path in your quest for success. In any organization, in times of peace or war, the complete absence of holy writ provides a significant advantage. Capitalism. As Big Al wrote in 29, our American system, call it Americanism, call it capitalism, call it whatever you want, gives any and all of us a great chance and a great opportunity, Only if we grab it with both hands and squeeze as much out of it as we can. If a quote from Capone isn't good enough for you, here's the view of another equally advanced orator from the legal world, one Abraham Lincoln, laid out in 1837. For the most part, these capitalists act coherently and harmoniously, like an orchestra at a concert, to mow down the public. Haircutting the public, of course, reflects the true nature of business, although the idea could be expressed less directly. But who would argue with Lincoln? Per quanto, the goal of capitalism is to further enrich people who have money to invest, in other words, already rich. That's why the children of rich parents are so in awe of their dads leaving them jackpot as an inheritance. That's why under capitalism it's better to be rich than poor. In our business, we love capitalism. We're great guys, believe me. As long as you don't owe us any money. The law, they say, in all the magic of its impartiality, forbids both rich and poor to sleep on park benches. In all other respects, though they don't tell us this, which is obvious, the law leans toward the wealthy. That is, money doesn't sit in jail. You can't be wealthy without knowing how to become influential, but you can't be influential without having money. Almost all wealthy people have inherited their wealth, and they believe that their ownership is a divine right. They grew up with a deep conviction, alas, speculative, of their own superiority. Yes, it's from God, so they have no sympathy and empathy for those who own a smaller piece of the material world than they do. They believe that poverty, it too is from God, just like their wealth, hence anyone who is less than them is mediocre. The idea that we can lie to them, steal from them, cheat them, does not usually occur to the wealthy. Their money and property belong to them by divine right. That's why they make interesting partners and even more interesting adversaries. You can shear a sheep regularly, skin it only once. But rich people are strange creatures. You can both shear them and skin them again and again. All this is written to warn you that in situations where you are facing a team led by a man wealthy from birth, you will be interacting with an animal of a strange breed, unlike your usual opponents, and should behave accordingly. The wealthy man is mostly like a briquette of ice cream when kicked into a corner. In other words, he's been doing pen pal boxing his whole life. Capisci? Anyway, remember, the main chances for enrichment are in the business that skins the poor, at least not the one that rips off the oligarchs. There are hundreds of millions of middle-class people around, and there is a lot more to be made from those millions. Remember the enduring success of Firestone, Ford, General Motors, DuPont, Union Carbide. Competitive struggle. During your career, you will fight two constant battles with your competitors. One with your enemies inside the organization and one with your enemies outside. You're in the cause, and if you're in the cause, you can't get out of it. In both cases, the prize is power. Not money, but power. In both cases, you need victory in a situation that can be called in one word, war. Here are the best of German theorist von Clausewitz's words on war. Some good-hearted people may think that there is some ingenious way of disarming or defeating the enemy without bloodshed, and this is what the art of war must strive for. However pleasing to the ear this sophism may be, it must be exposed. Wars are a dangerous business in which the most fatal errors come from kindness. He also said, combat is the only effective way of waging war. Its aim is the destruction of enemy forces as a means of ending conflict. The destruction of enemy forces lies at the heart of all warfare. All military plans are based on this absolute truth. Machiavelli's advice on the same subject: there are two ways to win. One is through law. The other through brute force. The first is used by men, the second by animals. And when the first is exhausted, the second must be resorted to. Bloody, animalistic behavior aimed at destroying your opponent, isn't that the price you're willing to pay for success? You know, kindness and affability never laid a Persian rug on the floor of anyone's office. You want to be loved by a spaniel. Sotto voce, there's another secret you should know about. You can't be right in a power struggle. Your enemies inside and outside the organization watch your moves and are just as virtuous in their attempts to bring you down. In a power struggle, your calculations must be based solely on self-interest combined with a direct and rational way of accomplishing your goal. The more barbaric and bloody it is, the worse it is for those who oppose you. What you think is right may seem wrong to those outside the conflict. but move forward listening only to yourself. This is what the phrase "you do what you have to do" is all about, with the correct emphasis on the second "you." Before every battle in any war, correctly calculate your allowable losses. If expenses fall within the allowable losses, write them off as losses without hesitation. The military axiom is no reinforcements went in when the battle is lost. Poker wisdom: don't marry a bad hand. In any case, the winner is not the player who won the most layouts or games. The winner is the player who won the most money. By strategizing, deciding, and acting, by deception or force, you must throw your enemy off balance. Break patterns. The main advantage you gain will be that your enemy will fear you. He will be unaware of your danger and effectiveness and will proceed by trial and error. Bluff him by giving him food for thought. As much as possible, let your opponent do as much of your work as possible. If you can frame the situation in such a way that he begins to think as if he will benefit from these actions that will trap him and destroy him, but will work for you and against himself. If this requires lying and misleading, lie and mislead without hesitation. As stated above, there is no morality in power struggles. While the total destruction of your enemy in any war is your absolute goal, it is not always possible, and sometimes it is simply undesirable. But when your enemy is defeated, it is your duty to make a lasting peace with him or the remnants of his empire. This is the most difficult task of the victor. To create a harmonious and profitable peace, you must pick out of the remnants of the enemy forces those that might be tempted by revenge, and weaken or remove them from power so that they can never again pose a threat to you in the future. Foolishly, some of the defeated will be filled with gratitude to you for bringing the conflict to an end. Humbled by their status, they will willingly make concessions and favors that extend far beyond your original intentions. Before the sludge settles, take advantage of the fruits of this weakness. You must be wary of two consequences of a war won. 1. The euphoria induced by the war. While your mind is clouded by the feelings rushed from the triumph, you need not make grandiose plans or further steps. 2. The corrupting force of the additional power you have acquired. Try to avoid the sense of impunity engendered by your rise. You need to feel responsible to yourself and become a leader, and that means managing. Negotiations. Drag out negotiations indefinitely if you are sure that there is even the slightest chance to bargain for what you need. Your adversary may get tired of procrastination and agree to concessions. Be patient. Don't make eye contact with your opponent during face-to-face negotiations. Peek in now and then while presenting your position, but don't stare. Most people, and even dogs, perceive a piercing stare as an unfriendly or even threatening act. If you're pinned down on a weak point, change the subject. Use any argument you can think of and repeat it throughout the conversation. Not only will you bore your opponent, but you can find a chink in their armor with one of your arguments or compromises. Play against the player, not the layout. This means, no matter how strong your opponent's position, the layout, you must play against his individual qualities, the player. Never show your cards, for as Machiavelli observed, never show your intentions, realize them in every possible way. Ask a man for a weapon without explaining to him your desire to kill him. When it is in your hands, fulfill your will with that weapon. Start with high bids and don't lower them. This will end in a higher final price, including the arithmetic mean. Give away the useless, keep the rest. Don't sweat the small stuff. Leave the adversary plenty of outs. The basic rule of negotiation is to let your opponent save face. That is, leave him at least one way out while getting what he needs. It will be almost impossible to get your adversary to act in your best interest without leaving him an exit or a path that appears to be an exit. Never pass up favorable concessions, but rarely agree to them. Never make threats. Remember Machiavelli, never threaten your enemy or insult him, for neither will diminish his power. The former will make him more cautious, the latter will increase his hatred and make him more persistent in seeking to harm you. Thank God for human nature. When you understand it, all negotiations, indeed all business transactions, will become simple and easy. People act out of greed, people act out of fear. This is the essence of man. Meetings. All meetings, except those at the highest level, should be standing and scheduled at the end of the business day. Given that you are the chair of the meeting, listen to the speaker as long as he or she is saying business. It doesn't take long. If the speaker deviates from the point, interrupt him. The meeting is over when the participants start repeating themselves. Ask your secretary to stenograph the meetings you attend and send out transcripts to those who have made commitments or need to act. She should know when you need to review these notes to evaluate results. Memoranda. 99 out of 100 memoranda written do not contain information worth reading. Half of the rest can be made half as short. As a general rule of thumb, don't write about anything that isn't beyond common knowledge. And never draft truly confidential papers. Suppliers. Make your subordinates change suppliers frequently. Long-term relationships to buy goods and services lead them to complacency and you to dependence. An added benefit is that your firm will benefit from the lower prices new suppliers will pay to get an order. This will protect your people from the temptation to arrange a great kickback deal for themselves. Liars. A good liar always looks you straight in the eye and speaks in a strong and clear voice. Don't expect him to exhibit Pinocchio syndrome, which is characterized by frequent blinking, blushing, stuttering, and gasping for air. All the best liars are sociopaths, people who have no conscience. It is useless to test them on a lie detector, polygraph, or voice stress analyzer. Emotional and simple-minded people, on the other hand, will fail any test on these devices, but will tell the truth. Anger and irritability can cause the recorder to fluctuate and be misinterpreted by the instruments as lying. Selecting prospective personnel through lie detector tests, so fashionable nowadays, is not really a good idea. Nor are these tests effective for internal investigations. Some people are born liars with a pathological tendency to twist or distort the truth. Given time, they will inevitably reveal themselves sooner or later. Beware of people who talk too much. This is often a symptom of a manic liar. An inept liar repeats certain phrases as if they have been learned by repetition. In fact, they have. A good liar may have an innate gift or an art honed by years of study, practice, and endless fieldwork under an infinite variety of circumstances. At one end of the spectrum is the pre-prepared lie. At the other is the casual and spontaneous. A good liar is adept at both. There are varying degrees of mixing truth and falsehood. A skillful liar always knows how much fact to mix with fiction, fiction with fiction. Study the masters of deception, statesmen and politicians, local and foreign, some lawyers, some salesmen, some children. They can give an idea of style and content. It's also worth paying attention to advertising, not only because of deceptive and unsubstantiated claims, but also because of thoughtful omissions. Always think your opponent is lying. The litmus test for this would be the old question, who benefits? Secrecy. Sooner or later, everything secret comes to light. No person, firm, or government can keep secrets. People talk on the subway, in the elevator, in the beer hall on the corner, in the doctor's waiting room, in bed, in their sleep. The consequences of carefree and irresponsible chatter? Possible disclosure of your company's strictest secrets, which will cost you money. Secrets are revealed in other ways, too. Sometimes corporate secrets lie in plain sight, on bulletin boards, on the copy machine, on scraps of paper in a basket, or on the floor. You can't prevent leaks completely, but here are tips to reduce them. Don't tell your wife, husband, or mistress anything. 1 out of 3 modern married couples ends in divorce. And no anger compares to the anger of a revenge-hungry ex-spouse or ex-lover. Don't tell your children anything. Don't tell anyone more than they need to know. Don't make a lot of duplicate keys to safes. Keep duplicates with you, in your pocket and at home. Don't discuss business in public places. Buy a good shredder and use it. Filing baskets are unreliable. If you need to protect company secrets, marketing plans, formulas, process descriptions, mailing lists, get your employees to sign non-disclosure agreements obliging them not to disclose information to competitors. In most countries, these contracts will not be enforceable, but they will be a deterrent. In recent years, an ever-increasing number of trade secrets lawsuits have been filed by employers against former employees who abused their trust and disseminated confidential information. In these cases, it is important to conduct the litigation with the greatest publicity possible to prevent similar leaks in the future. Buy a safe with a changeable combination. Do not use your birthday or the birthdays of people close to you as a code. Do not use combinations similar to July 4th, 76. Change the combination often enough, but at random and unpredictable intervals. Don't give too much information to business partners outside your organization. Everyone likes to gossip, and even if these partners don't have critical information, smart competitors, like paleontologists, will be able to piece together the skeleton of a big secret from the smallest fragments. Keep a close eye on those who show up at your office for maintenance, cleaning, and deliveries. This is a classic method of infiltration, and your enemies can take advantage of it. If leaks occur regularly and you can't identify the source, you'll need a private detective firm or private investigator to get to the bottom of the problem. Don't say anything about your suspicions. By doing so, you'll give the spy or spies time to counteract. Remain silent and hire the best detective firm you can find. They will retrieve the bugs planted in the bureau, help you create a tamper-proof environment, track down the traitors in your firm, if there are any, and clearly point out your external enemies. It's time and money, but you're at war. Of course, you can let enemy spies continue their activities and feed them false information. One more thing. If one of your lieutenants is at the head of your spy network, make sure that the information he gathers for you doesn't encourage him to want to weave his own petty plots. Politicians. You want to see real politics? Find a Ponzi bar or restaurant where the servants of the people, servants of the servants, servants of the servants, the ballot boxes, those close to them, and those aspiring to them hang out. It's usually a place within sight of City Hall or Congress, full of shady characters and their shadows. Take Harris in New York or Vanilla in Moscow as an example. Officials and legislators on their thorny way up, and legislators, usually mods, but still, in a feverish search, or in a relentless plunge downward, waiting for favor from the Lord, or his earthly vicar, or a search warrant from the Attorney General. Party people in power, serving their time in the service in search of an even more relaxed sinecure. Established bureaucrats who can afford to do nothing, and the myriad of their assistant rats, waiting for the moment when fortune in the person of the boss suddenly winks at them or carelessly beckons them with an influential hand. Judges who will never forget those who put them in the high-back chair and those who stand behind them, if they are not already sitting. And a gang of lawyers waiting for a moment of sudden demand or a quick opportunity to realize an important contact. All, in war hunting tales, who lies first has no chance to twitch. Conspiracies, intrigues, carelessly sketching the draft of the new law right on the tablecloth. It is important to understand the budget and beneficiaries, everything else is details. The cream and froth always come to the top. It is elementary to recognize an honest politician by his appearance. He has hair growing on his teeth. Per quanto, our cause supports every candidate who has even the remotest chance in space and time of winning an important election, even independent green lesbian candidates in traditional two-party districts. Some, however, get more support than others. But remember, it's better to spread your broad soul to everyone. It's written off as a cost of your business, though not always deductible from taxable income, and totally practical in terms of justifiable business expenses. Otherwise, it will be maddeningly miserable to see a winning young talent and discover that you didn't become his or her friend, or hers, o tempora, o mores. One more thing, if you're 17 and not a Democrat, you don't have a heart, but if you're 40 and not a conservative, you don't have a brain. Boys. In the humble cradle of unbridled al alone, Chicago, there are twice as many lawyers and 20 times as many law students as there are in the whole of Japan. Our gross product is falling, theirs is rising. Guess what? During their conventions, reminiscent in spirit of young communist meetings, these assholes hand out badges that say I love lawyers, I love lawyers. But no one in their right mind would ever think of wearing them. Not even their wives. Don't ask a lawyer what time it is. He will rush to make you a watch. Lawyers in America, and I guess in the rest of the world as well, are gray, ignorant, obscenely pathologically greedy and mentally squalid. In their parlance, including but not limited to. The main interest of their life, royalties, determines its pace. The clock moves in a jagged anti-submarine zigzag of units of account, fluctuating depending on the personal level of professional greed from 15 minutes to an hour of account. Anything less is rounded up. saying good morning is owed to you for 1/4 of a counting hour or 1 counting unit. Some of them appear to have 36 hours in a day. Following the exact chronology of accounting time, the average 40-year-old lawyer must reach the age of 65. The second interest of their lives is to demonstrate to the world the fact that they know more than any interlocutor. They reach orgasm without warming up at the sound of their own speech and never hesitate to tell the world that here and now they know and understand incomparably more than you will ever be able to simply hear. In fact, even the most brilliant of them know only a small part of a very narrow subject, the very one they have artificially muddied up by celestially turning it into a guild source of enrichment in order to use it for their own benefit. Many of them don't have the brains to spit the piss out of their shoe in time. Universities are designed to teach them the fine art of overreaching, nipping, moving out, jumping in, and shifting gears. The amazing thing is that few of them excel at it, and that is only when they interact in court with their peers, the judge and the prosecutor. They energetically feed off their practice, pampered by narcissism and endless self-envy. Does it still surprise you that most politicians, even the jerks, are lawyers? The cost of maintaining their habitat, the judicial legal system and the system in general, where they exist as some kind of superior animals and lead an excessively luxurious lifestyle, the in fondo, simply cannot imagine. 3/4 of Chicago's multi-billion-dollar budget goes to fund the city's judicial, criminal, and prison systems. They pay nominal initial court fees to be able to use the expensive system, but then pass those costs on to their clients. They see a law degree as a license to steal combined with an absolute indulgence. Fortunately, there are always exceptions in this life, and lawyers should be calmly accepted as a necessary evil to be tolerated while doing business. They've taken care of that one without reminder. Look for those young and hungry exceptions and kick them into place. The biggest problem with the pocket lawyer you warm up to will be overseeing the prevention of screw-ups in trivial and standardized transactions, when his or her eye will simply become blurred in trying to complicate the system and give you the impression of universal wisdom. As for the IRS, police, feds, and other similar problems, find a professional who can work in a share of what you save or chew off. And be very, 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 very careful with him. Advertising, PR, journalist. H.G. Wells said with the restrained gravity of a true English gentleman back in 1934 that advertising is a legalized lie. I can repeat the classic. PR is about the right connections and working with the opinions of people no one asks. It's gotten much worse every decade since then. We at our business know what advertising, marketing, and PR agencies specialize in, so you have to be very careful when working with them. Alas, for some business ventures, they are a necessary evil. If your business needs publicity, ours doesn't, but assholes like Capone did, and we have to deal with the consequences of reckless publicity and Ponzi leering. Don't let these assholes do the minimum service for the maximum budget, which has become not only a trend but a golden rule in this business. They work for you, kick them in the ass. Your agent earns their fees and has a commission on the money from the orders for spots and campaigns that they get from you. To find another client, the ad agent will have to spend much more on advertising, the paradox of their business, than the reasonable discount they have to make you. The bottom line of their business is that advertising time, space, or printing and production costs are negligible compared to the money spent to find a new client. But God forbid you from trying to contact TV stations or printers directly. We don't do street lottery, we cover it. If suddenly you're tired, change agencies. It's always a good idea, because owning a recognizable business will get you the true royal treatment from advertisers during the initial spooning stage. From there, the rules are simple. Require estimates, pre-approval of all budgets and all outside costs, and a detailed explanation of everything the agency does for you. Everything. Feel free to be petty, but delegate these details to your accountant. In his or her mouth, the numbers will become lyrical and touching. Look under whom and how the agency lay before you. Old ties carry the danger of leaking information and playing second fiddle. The list of commonly cut and totally unnecessary expenses of any organization always includes management consulting firms, PR agencies, marketing agencies, advanced advertising agencies with high relationships, prestigious law firms, But if you're on a roll or in crisis and you're in urgent need of fresh advice and fresh blood in any of these areas, find someone with experience who can break patterns and generate ideas, has great ambition, charisma and drive, and completely unleash them. By this I mean an independent budget and subjecting local losers to it. Having untied his hands, openly prepare his replacement, leaking this information, and wait for the result. All PR agencies specialize in BS. In other words, plush bullshit. In my down-to-earth opinion, there's enough of it in our imperfect world as it is, and there's no need to spread it everywhere at insane expense out of your own pocket. As for management consultants, if you need them, it's time for someone to take your place. Journalists are the grayest amateurs who never bother to fact-check and know the subject matter of your and their business. So when engaging them for one purpose or another, provide a detailed excursion and total debriefing into the subject and create a system whereby all press releases are always reported by those who understand your business. And always read and sign your interviews. Lastly, never hire university professors as a consultant on any subject. They know nothing about applications and live in their illusions and crazy theories. What is much worse, they teach these illusions to young, innocent, and unsuspecting minds. Computers. Don't buy complex and expensive systems unless your business absolutely requires them. Don't invest in a unique system made on the edge of art. Use a ready-made system that requires minimal adaptation. Remember, you can't keep up with technology. Computer systems, especially tricked-out laptops and cell phones with a million unnecessary functions, on which now and build Ponce Coriatni semi-priblitny clowns from business, and other benefits of modern technogenic civilization is always better to buy tomorrow. And another thing, think of our Italian ancestors from ancient Rome and the trading republics of Genoa, Pisa, and Venice. They wrote instructions succinctly on a space limited by a wax tablet. This, rather than unlimited traffic, was the art of expressing oneself and making money. Who needs a video phone? To trade the last opportunity to gracefully hide your emotions for the chance to be counted among the advanced adepts of the technology? Don't let your programmers be kings and dictate. They, and this is the absolute truth, should be doing what is convenient for the users, not what they can or what is convenient for them. One more thing. Big corporations in America fire system administrators if a system hangs more than once every 3 months. Capisci? Find a keen nerd to play big system, but ensure its effectiveness by assigning an elderly grandmother who despises technology and progress to provide total oversight. She will create the proper level of security and help prevent sensitive information, databases, and corporate know-how from leaking out. Lack of oversight will lead to Generation X's overconfidence and completely unnecessary temptations to sell information to the side. It will also protect him from the trivial and stupid questions of most of your company's computer idiots. Have them write a manual together that contains answers to most moronic inquiries and requests, and then they can proudly and carelessly throw back, RTFM. Nevertheless, regardless of whether your corporation has a sophisticated computer system, teach all clerks to blame all punctures on an hung system, customized mail server, mainframe error, and explain to external partners and counterparties that the information they need cannot be obtained because the system is down. If your company is big enough, your financiers will be able to get the ability to lose invoices from small counterparties, especially suppliers who depend on large customers, into the computer system. It makes no difference whether they have one or not, and demand re-invoices and proof of delivery before payment is made. Case in point. As stated, Mafia soldiers believe in honor, revenge, and solidarity. The true embodiment of these qualities in our cause was and still is Johnny Torrio. Herbert Osbury, Chicago's most recognized underworld connoisseur, characterized him as follows: "No one could surpass Johnny Torrio as an organizer and administrator of the underworld in the annals of American crime. He was one of those who came closer to the status of the nation's secret leader, its manipulator, its gray cardinal, than anyone else. Above all, Johnny Torrio was Womedy Panza, literally, man of the belly, that is, a man who knows how to keep things to himself, in his belly, Womedy Segreto, man of secrecy, able to leave his affairs to his private affairs, Womedy Pazienza, man of patience. A man who has patience is a man who keeps the situation under control. He is firm, he is a constant, the constant of all situations. He shuns the outside world and is incomprehensible to others. He has no pretensions, ponce and naivete. His inner strength gives him significance, because he can wait, plan, but strikes only when the situation for success is maximally favorable. He memorizes everything that can be useful and learns from the mistakes of others. He studies their behavior, assessing what will work for them and what will work for him. While his opponents jump up and down and shake in impatience, he bides his time, exploiting their weaknesses. He knows that honor is achieved by awareness of the reality of the world, wisdom, sobriety, intelligence and control of one's destiny, not by kindness and nobility. His whole life consists of work and self-sacrifice, self-denial, self-sufficiency and self-control. He does not seek confrontation and conflict, he avoids it, except when something really serious is at stake. In other words, he maneuvers his way toward his goal. He's a fox. Most importantly, he knows what's really important in this life, and that gives him a sense of self-worth and wins him the respect of others. All of these things are at the heart of the concept of being a man, and all of these qualities, along with intelligence, Johnny Torrio possessed to the highest degree. He had learned from the small mistakes and defeats he had made in Chicago. After leaving the city, Torrio had the authority among his associates to propose and implement step-by-step ingenious solutions that in a short time created the Mafia, the national organization, and became the de facto consigliere of the syndicate 70 years before the concepts of coaching and the role model in business administration. At the age of 7, he was herding his father's blind pig in Brooklyn. Half a century later, without too much pomp, he was one of the most powerful and wealthy men in the national criminal milieu, the system his ideas and energy created, the mafia in the United States. You won't do wrong if your leadership style is modeled after Johnny Torrio. He is not as famous as the bombastic and flamboyant Charm Capone, but he was a much more effective and successful leader. Home events. What does marriage have to do with your business? All or nothing, depending on your foresight, forethought, and competence. Preferably, the business has nothing to do with marriage, and you and your attorneys will ensure that it does. Before taking marital vows, find an attorney who is a professional in divorce and prenuptial agreements. Ask him or her to draft a prenuptial agreement detailing clearly who gets what in the event you separate, and chances are pretty good that you will. A small, predetermined compensation will keep your wife and her greedy lawyer away from your business, your accounting, and your bank accounts. When a loved one asks, "How can you be so insensitive and materialistic and ask me to sign this contract? Don't you love me?" Reply, "Of course I love you. But my partners, creditors, and attorneys are insisting on this contract. Make sure you sign all 5 copies." Mafia marriages, of course, are never an equal deal. The wife never, ever knows anything about her husband's affairs. She has only a vague, if allowed, idea of her husband's income, barely knows his business associates, and never expects family concerns to take precedence over business necessity. Naturally, your marriage will be different. You're in a legitimate business. You and your spouse will probably have an easier relationship. But still, for the safety of your career, I recommend that your wife, as in mafia marriages, believe that whatever you do is for the greater good, that she not try to make her own decisions, but accept yours without hesitation, and do what you ask without question. Trouble is in the house where the hen cackles and the rooster sits on the roost. Your spouse should never ask where you have been, what you have been doing, what you are thinking. A wife should only know what you deem necessary and be satisfied with that. A spouse should never be aggressive and should never be irritated. The sphere of her life should be the house and the children, nothing else. Finito. Axioms. Every situation has 2 handles. Every stick has 2 ends. Every coin has 2 sides. To finish faster, take your time. If your only tool is a hammer, imagine all problems are nails. Contracts exist to be broken. Never leave unpaid debts. By you or to you, it's always time to pay your bills. Most people never listen to anything except threats or promises. By compromising, you lose. By compromising, you take a step toward victory. Difficulties show what people are capable of. Preparation is the mother of success, audacity is its father. A carefree man's wife is almost a widow. Wine and maidens empty the wallets. All sins grow old, greed remains youthful. If you are an anvil, wait. If you are a hammer, strike. If your affairs prosper, all will be your friends. Only when they are ruined will you discover true friends. Failures first come in pairs and then in formation. Never expect logic and reason to determine human relationships. Fortune will smile, then betray. Wrong choices always seem to make more sense. When everything around you is hopeless, the situation can only change for the better. Luck is on the side of the strong. If you have the keys to the door, let the enemy out. If you want peace, prepare for war. Don't make enemies unnecessarily. Don't teach your soldiers every trick in the book, you'll become your own victim. It's better that your enemies overestimate your stupidity, not your shrewdness. In a cold house, find a warm place. To deceive your enemy, show that you fear him. Sometimes the wisest thing to do is to play dumb. Work the sucker, but then calm him down. Behind every Ponzi asshole, you'll find a flighty chick. A louse in a plate of cabbage is better than no meat. The future pays for the present. After the war is over, many heroes emerge. Failure always comes through a door left ajar. When emotions and feelings are involved in a situation, don't rely on logic and common sense. Once victorious, sharpen the knife. Unless you've been on the street, you can't know her. You can't buy luck, but you can borrow it. If others pass and fold when you're well dealt, your cards are showing. Strike first, you strike last. Any crisis is worse than the perception of it. If you don't have a lion on your harness, leave sleeping dogs alone. No one dies twice. Victories are temporary, so are defeats. All the best theories end badly in practice. Unhappy is the family where the hen rejoices and the rooster remains unperturbed. Silence doesn't make mistakes. Let your opponent speak. When he's finished, let him continue. People can be bought with different coin. Treat strangers like friends, trust them like strangers. Quiet waters hide sharks. There is no such thing as a cheap politician. What is gravy for the goose is only gravy for the gander. Living under someone else's will is suffering for some, necessity for a few, happiness for most. Take action. When the wine is drunk, throw away the bottle. Anger is the wind that blows out the candle of consciousness. Sufficiency is not wealth, only sufficiency. In the sea, all men are brothers, but brothers with a life preserver don't want to share it. Only a fool turns around after reaching his goal. A teasing bear cub provokes the bear. Never cook in someone else's kitchen. Most disagreements can be resolved in bed. Don't tie dogs with pig guts. Fear is often concealed by insolence. Don't rely on fame in the morning and your mother-in-law's smile in the evening. An enemy is dangerous when he seems defeated. Beat your wife on your wedding day and your married life will be long and happy. Cheat the rich, but do not insult them. When you hunt, let the beast come out at you. Any fool can rest in peace. The eagle in old age, like the eagle in youth, is full of danger. And a man's cradle stands in his grave. Whatever you're up to, that's enough. Basta. Axioms of the Retired Capos Nonprofit Association. It's better to be ugly than stupid. Money washes away grudges. Sometimes. There are two ways to argue with a woman. Neither one works. You can rush into battle with rage, but sometimes it's better to sit on the riverbank and wait for your enemy's corpse to float down it. In business, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for. Virtually all the troubles of this life come from dealing with suckers. Even trusted partners need to be serviced. Everywhere you kiss a soldier's ass. Business, love and war are similar to the point of confusion in one thing: the psychology of submission and manipulation. You can't be ignorant because of your exceptionalism. Prepayment is the best proof of friendship. Stupid questions always get stupid answers. You can accomplish more with a kind word and a banknote than just a kind word. With a kind word, a gun, and a banknote, you can achieve almost anything. Freedom is very often misunderstood by many as a willingness to be violent. Never be in a hurry to hand over money when it is asked for, and to go on a sexual hike when you are sent there. Let those who didn't get us cry, let those who didn't want us die. Don't think too much about a woman's guile. The most insidious things she does come from her own stupidity. Sometimes dating starts with a kick. Wait, sometimes it's better to be a spectator of a tragedy than a participant in it. The smart one will prefer the position of the director, and then for him the whole action is a comedy. Be careful what you wish for, it may come true. First tactics, then schedule. In any endeavor, first think about your desires, then about the consequences that will occur when you achieve them, and if you are still sure, go for it.